It was just as the oracle had said. Longao was very clear in his heart that source energy was something that the heavenly Tao valued the most. How could it be taken out casually? A mountain could not accommodate 2 tigers, let alone an increase in the number of tigers. Xiling, where is the heavenly Tao sure kill technique? After heavenly Tao left, Longao became somewhat impatient. Come with me. Longao didn't hesitate and followed Xiling's senses. Inside the heavenly Tao mountain, only the 10 directions tripod remained, and the search area was expanded infinitely. Under the lead of Tang Hao, the Martial Artists Alliance finally found the secret of the heavenly Tao mountain, which was outside a huge valley. Inside the valley, black fog lingered. Without entering, one could sense the terrifying aura inside. It was eerie and creepy, and one couldn't help but shudder when one got close. In just half an hour, all the members of the 10 Directions tripod had arrived outside the valley, including Longao. Everyone stared at the valley in front of them, and no one dared to enter. Because the Tao of Heaven had sent down the heavenly Tao mountain, it couldn't be so simple. No one knew if there was any danger in the valley. Since things had already come to this point, everyone gritted their teeth and rushed in. In the blink of an eye, all the members of the 10 Directions tripod had rushed into the valley and disappeared without a trace. After everyone had entered the valley, Longao's figure slowly appeared. He looked at the valley coldly. According to Xiling, the heavenly Tao fatal skill was in the valley in front of him. As for the power of origin, Xiling couldn't get it, but Xiling needed the airflow in the valley very much. Whether it was for Xiling, Bai Ling, or for himself, Longao knew that he had to enter the valley. Moreover, the marvelous mathematician emphasized the heavenly Tao fatal skill, and it seemed that this martial arts technique had some history. Until now, Longao still couldn't figure out why the Tao of Heaven would take it out if the heavenly Tao fatal skill was so powerful. He didn't believe that the Tao of Heaven was selfless, no matter whether others believed it or not. However, he had to give it a try. What if the heavenly Tao fatal skill wasn't suitable for others, but for himself? That was exactly the case. Longao didn't continue to hesitate and walked toward the valley. After a while, he disappeared in the valley surrounded by black fog. In the valley, it was boundless, and one couldn't see the end of it. All one could see was black fog. Moreover, the black fog in the valley was very strange. Not to mention ordinary people, even Nirvana warriors didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. This was because someone who had just stepped into the valley, and was a supreme Tao warrior, immediately exploded and died after inhaling the black fog. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. At the same time, they knew what had happened. No one dared to be the slightest bit careless. They immediately released an air shield and forced the black fog away. Even so, the surroundings were very dark. No matter how strong they couldn't see anything more than 3 meters away. Longao entered the valley and encountered the same situation. He immediately released the slaughter domain and released an air shield. In this way, he could barely resist the corrosion of the black fog. Longao sighed in relief. He was very clear that this black fog had been created by the heavenly Tao's. It seemed the heavenly Tao's intention was only to test the godly mathematician's strength. As for the others, even if all the 10 direction cauldrons worked together, the heavenly Tao's wouldn't place them in their eyes. Even so, the black fog set down by the heavenly Tao's was no small matter. Longao advanced step by step. However, finding the entrance wasn't easy. It seemed he could only rely on Xiling's help. However, while searching for the entrance, Longao was preparing to cause some trouble for the 10 direction cauldrons. The 10 direction cauldrons were the hegemons of the martial heaven continent. Normally, they didn't interfere with each other's business. However, Longao was very clear that the 10 direction cauldrons had always been fighting openly and covertly. At this time, having the 10 direction cauldrons fight each other was not necessarily a bad thing. With Longao's current strength and the 2 weeping soul beasts, he was constantly killing the 10 direction cauldrons' divine experts. This way, the 10 direction cauldrons were suspicious of each other. They all thought that the other side wanted to kill them. And so, the 10-direction cauldrons began to fight. They fought to the death, unable to spare any attention to find the so-called Heavenly Tao's Shirkill skills and core energy. Longhang? Just as Longao was preparing to find the entrance, he suddenly saw the Long family's grand elder, Longhang. Author's note: I've been so busy these past few days that I can't catch my breath. Today it's 3 chapters. Tomorrow it'll be 15 chapters. If little 9 can't do it, I'll become a monk. Chapter 1086. Longhang had to be killed. Longao was almost certain that the first elder of the Long family was a Nirvana Realm warrior. According to the 10 Forces Mutual Restriction, the Martial Artists Alliance had 9 Nirvana Realm warriors, so the other 9 super forces probably had fewer Nirvana Realm warriors. Long family was no exception. In order to completely solve the problem, Longao was going to take advantage of the valley to kill Longhang. If they were outside, the Long clan would definitely gather together. It wouldn't be easy to find an opportunity to do so. As long as they were in the valley, it was pitch black. In just an hour, the people of the Long clan had been scattered. Longao stared at Longhang in the distance. There were already 5 people around him. He sneered. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Longao ordered the Weeping Soul Beasts on his left and right. Just as the 2 Weeping Soul Beasts were about to attack, his face suddenly turned cold, and he almost cursed. The 2 Weeping Soul Beasts disappeared. There was no need to ask at all. Longao already knew why the 2 Weeping Soul Beasts suddenly disappeared. The Marvelous Mathematician. According to the previous agreement, the Marvelous Mathematician lent him the 2 Weeping Soul Beasts to prevent the 10 forces from getting the treasure of Tiannao Mountain. In this case, the Marvelous Mathematician took back the 2 Weeping Soul Beasts before Tiannao Mountain was disbanded. It was a bit unkind. Although Longao was cursing in his heart, he knew very well that the Marvelous Mathematician's identity and strength were there. One day, I will rely on my own strength to laugh at the world and look down at the sky. The 2 Weeping Soul Beasts had disappeared. It was almost impossible to kill Longhang with his own strength. He was very unwilling. Very unwilling. Longao, come with me. Longao nodded without hesitation. Since he couldn't kill Longhang now, he would definitely find a chance in the future. The most important purpose of entering Tiannao Mountain this time was to find the so-called Heavenly Way killing skill. Longao followed Xiling's senses and shot toward the southeast of the valley, disappearing into the vast black fog. In the valley. If it wasn't for Xiling's reaction, Longao wouldn't have been able to find the valley. Xiling and Bailing tried their best to absorb the black mist around them. As for Longao, he had also found the so-called Heavenly Tao Shirkill technique. Wordless Heavenly Book? Seeing that there was not a single word on the paper, Longao was completely dumbfounded. This was the so-called Heavenly Tao Shirkill technique. Long Fu, is this the Heavenly Tao Shirkill technique that the Heavenly Tao possesses? Master, if my guess is correct, the Heavenly Tao is unable to comprehend the killing move inside. Otherwise, the Heavenly Tao wouldn't have taken it out. What did he mean? Master, don't try to comprehend it yet. The Heavenly Tao has already set up an aura above. Once you successfully sense the Shirkill skill inside, I believe the Heavenly Tao will know instantly. So that was the case. Longao was also a little scared. It seemed like the Heavenly Tao wanted to borrow the hands of others to open this martial skill. In the end, even the Heavenly Tao was unable to comprehend this martial skill. The more it was so, the more Longao was looking forward to it. Long Fu, what should I do? With the power of the blood pool, cover this martial skill. I believe that even the Heavenly Tao won't be able to sense it. Longao immediately did as he said. He sent the martial skill manual in front of him into the blood pool in the Dragon Seal space. Longao didn't leave. Instead, he waited for a full day and night before quietly leaving. The Heavenly Tao Mountain descended for a full 3 days. In the end, whoever obtained the Heavenly Tao Shirkill technique and the origin energy would definitely not leak it out. No one was a fool. Once this matter was leaked out, the consequences would be unimaginable. The most depressing thing about the descent of the Heavenly Tao Mountain this time was the 10-direction tripod. Not only did they not obtain the Heavenly Tao circle technique and the origin energy, but the 10-direction tripod killed each other and suffered heavy losses. After a rough estimation, this time, the 10-direction tripod lost a full 1/3 of the people who entered the Heavenly Tao Mountain. What kind of concept was this? One must know that this time, the weakest of the 10-direction tripod that entered the Heavenly Tao Mountain was a supreme Tao martial artist. Longao Peak. Longao returned successfully, but he did not do so openly. The reason was very simple. Yuwishuang was still on Longao Peak, constantly searching for his traces. He was quite persistent. Without the help of the two weeping soul beasts, even if Longao wanted to make a move, he would be powerless. Aoer, are you all right? He shook his head. Looking at his family in front of him, Longao smiled. After chatting for a while, he immediately returned to his residence. This was because he had something very important to do now, and that was to comprehend the ultimate skill. In the courtyard, Longao took out his ultimate skill. After a day of hard work, Long Fu finally used the power of the blood pool to completely eliminate the aura of the ultimate skill. In other words, even if he successfully comprehended the ultimate skill now, he believed that even the Heavenly Tao would not be able to sense the existence of the ultimate skill. Speaking of which, Longao was really lucky. If an ordinary person saw the ultimate skill, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to take it away because the Heavenly Tao would sense it instantly. However, with the help of Long Fu and the blood pool, even the Heavenly Tao would not be able to sense it in time. It was precisely because of this Heavenly Tao Mountain, within the valley. The current Heavenly Tao Mountain no longer existed, but the Heavenly Tao could enter the Heavenly Tao Mountain anytime and anywhere. Looking at the empty space in front of him, and the Heavenly Tao's ultimate skill had disappeared, the Heavenly Tao's expression was extremely gloomy. It was as ugly as it could be because it had never thought that someone would be able to take away the ultimate skill without anyone noticing. How did the other party do it? No matter how he thought about it, the Heavenly Tao still could not figure out who could have such strength unless it was the divine mathematician, or Long Batian. However, the Heavenly Tao was sure that this was definitely not the doing of the divine mathematician, or Long Batian. In that case, who could it be? The ultimate skill, the so-called wordless heavenly book, was accidentally obtained by the Heavenly Tao back then. After comprehending it for so many years, he still could not succeed. He clearly knew that it was a treasure, but he could not do anything about it. It was precisely because of this that the Heavenly Tao came up with such a method to see if someone could comprehend the ultimate skill. In that case, he could reap the benefits without doing anything. Unfortunately, he lost the ultimate skill in the end. I don't care who you are. Since you want to take away my ultimate skill, I will not let you go. The Heavenly Tao forcibly suppressed his anger and killing intent. There was another point that he could not figure out. Who was the other party to be able to eliminate the aura of the wordless heavenly book? Such strength was a little scary. Apart from the divine mathematician and Long Batian, he could not think of a third person. This matter was a little simple and confusing. If the Heavenly Tao knew that the person who took away the wordless heavenly book was only a great emperor, who knew what he would think? P.S. The remaining chapter will be delivered later. 15 chapters will be released tomorrow. Starting from dawn, 5 chapters will be released first, and the remaining 10 will be released tomorrow. Chapter 1087. Longao's Peak. In the courtyard, Longao was trying to comprehend the wordless heavenly book with his soul. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't open the wordless heavenly book, let alone comprehend the ultimate skill. Longao wasn't disappointed at all. Even the Heavenly Tao couldn't comprehend it, let alone him. Young Master Long Bailing, let's discuss something. How about it? A white figure flashed and Bailing's figure appeared in the courtyard. Young Master Long, what's the matter? Bailing was always so gentle and kind. Even her words were pleasant to listen to, like the chirping of an oriole. Bai Ling, from now on, can you stop calling me young master? I can't stand it, okay? This. Without giving Bai Ling any chance to speak, Longao continued. Bai Ling, if you treat me as your own, from now on, don't call me young master Long. At this point, Bai Ling could only nod silently. Then what should I call you in the future? Just call me by my name, or Brother Long, then I'll call you Brother Long. Longao smiled. Brother Long sounded much better than young Master Long. Longao always had a good impression of this kind girl. Brother Long, try to use your bloodline to comprehend the wordless heavenly book. Bloodline? Longao didn't doubt Bai Ling. He nodded and tried to use his bloodline to enter the wordless heavenly book to see if he could open it. If his soul couldn't do it, Longao also thought that his bloodline couldn't do it. But the next scene completely shocked Longao. The wordless heavenly book, which didn't have any aura before, suddenly released a terrifying aura. Before Longao could react, his soul was sucked into the wordless heavenly book. In the mysterious space, the surroundings were gray and hazy. Longao was very curious. He did not know where he was. Could it be inside the wordless heavenly book? Although he was extremely unwilling to admit it, the truth was right in front of him. Longao didn't dare to act rashly because he didn't know what would happen inside the wordless heavenly book. You're finally here. A deep voice sounded. In front of Longao, countless specks of light began to gather. In the blink of an eye, a young man who looked exactly like Longao appeared. Himself? Looking at himself in front of him, Longao was completely dumbfounded. He couldn't believe it and rubbed his head dramatically. He thought he was dreaming and didn't know what had happened. Tianwu Continent. In the lobby of the Martial Artists Alliance. Not only the Alliance Master, Tong Tiandi, but also the 8 Vice Alliance Masters, including Shangguaniye and Tang Hao, were all present. Shangguaniye's face was very gloomy. Not only did the Martial Artists Alliance suffer a great loss this time, but he was also almost killed by Longao. The 8 of them already knew about this. How could he save his face? Besides this, Shangguaniye was very afraid of Longao. He was not afraid of Longao's strength, but of the Nirvana Divine Beast by Longao's side. The grudge between Longao and him was either you die or I die. Longao had such a backer. If he were to play dirty tricks behind his back, it could be said that it was impossible to guard against. He could not always follow behind the 8 people. He couldn't afford to lose face. The 8 of you, I believe you already know that the Martial Artists Alliance suffered a great loss on the trip to Tiannao Mountain. If there are no accidents, the 10-sided tripod standing will start the battle later. What do you think we should do next? Alliance Master. Shangguaniye stood up and glanced at the 8 of them. He said, Alliance Master, let's put this matter aside for now. Longao sneakily attacked me and killed our Martial Artists Alliance's disciple of the Path of Divinity. Shouldn't we settle this grudge with Longao? If this person didn't die, he would always be a big problem. As the saying goes, if you cut the grass without removing the roots, it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Knowing that Longao had a Nirvana Divine Beast by his side, Shangguaniye certainly didn't dare to act rashly. He could only rely on the Martial Artists Alliance's power to kill Longao. Tong Tiandi, Tang Hao, and the other 8 knew Shangguaniye very well. Not to mention the others, Tong Tiandi and Tang Hao were certainly unwilling to deal with Longao. However, for the sake of Shangguaniye, they couldn't be so direct. It was still the same question. As the Deputy Alliance Master of the Martial Artists Alliance, and a Nirvana Martial Artist, Shangguaniye had both strength and status. Shangguaniye, Longao has always been the honorary master of the Martial Artists Alliance. You can't deal with him just because you want to. If you didn't chase after Longao, he wouldn't have sneakily attacked you. What do you think? Shangguaniye was speechless. Shangguaniye was almost certain that Longao's sneaky attack had something to do with Tang Hao. He sneered in his heart. Shangguaniye was different from Tang Hao. If Shangguaniye was given a chance, even a slight chance, he wouldn't hesitate to get rid of Tang Hao. Tang Hao, if that's the case, then from now on, everyone can kill the Alliance's disciples, including you and me. After all, we are the Deputy Alliance Masters. Sheng Guanye's words made the other 6 Deputy Alliance Masters nod their heads. Even the Deputy Alliance Masters couldn't casually kill the Alliance's disciples, let alone the Honorary Master. Sheng Guanye waved his hand and looked at the Alliance Master. The 8 Deputy Alliance Masters didn't say anything, so he sat back down. We'll talk about this later. If it was the Longao of the past, Sheng Guanye wouldn't have said anything. With his strength, he could kill Longao in a matter of minutes. However, the situation was completely different now. If he let his guard down, he might be killed by Longao. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't worried. That was indeed the case. Sheng Guanye didn't want to delay any longer. No matter what happened, he had to get rid of Longao first. Alliance Master, it seems like the rules of the Alliance have been changed. Looking at Sheng Guanye, Tong Tianli knew that Sheng Guanye wouldn't let this matter rest until he made a decision. Did he really have to deal with Longao? No matter how he looked at it, the Alliance couldn't deal with Longao. Moreover, Longao had a Nirvana mythical beast by his side. If they offended such a person, even if they could kill Longao, the Martial Artists Alliance would suffer a great loss. Deputy Alliance Master Tang, go to the Jiuzhou continent. No matter what happened to Longao, bring him back. Tang Hao sighed deeply in his heart and glared at Sheng Guanye. If he hadn't stopped Sheng Guanye, he would have been dead by now. Sheng Guanye still refused to let go. This kind of person deserved to die. Alliance Master, I'll get up now. Tang Hao stood up and left the hall, preparing to go to the Jiuzhou continent. Sheng Guanye sneered in his heart. It seemed that the Alliance Master had chosen him over Longao. Chapter 1088. Long Family. Long Heng was almost certain that Longao had already killed Ling Mian and Gu Shuang. Even if he didn't want to admit it, the truth was right in front of him. Long Heng didn't do it himself, nor did he send anyone to the 9 continents. He was prepared to kill with a borrowed knife. Master, I've received news that Longao killed Ling Mian and Gu Shuang. According to the agreement that Longao left behind before he left, Longao would naturally return to the Long family in 3 months and enter the origin of evil. Calculating the time, Longao had left the Long family for about 20 days. There were still more than 2 months before the agreed date. However, Long Heng was obviously impatient. Long Ditian's expression was very ugly, but he still said, Great Elder, do you have any evidence that Longao killed Ling Mian and Gu Shuang? No. Since that's the case, let's not talk about this anymore. In 3 months, Longao will return to the family. When he enters the origin of evil, whether he lives or dies will depend on his luck. Long Heng didn't say anything else since Long Ditian had already said so. How could Long Ditian not know what Long Heng meant? 9 continents. Longao Peak, solitary courtyard. In the wordless heavenly book, Longao asked in shock. Who are you? They were exactly the same, as if they were twins. There were 2 Longao. If he didn't know that he was real, even he wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Longao was almost certain that if he stood in front of his family, even his parents and grandfather wouldn't be able to tell the difference. What's your name in this life? In this life? What did that mean? The other party's words completely confused Longao. He didn't know what this life meant. He asked back, What do you mean? Answer me first. Longao. Nodding his head, the young man said with a smile, Good name. You're faster than I thought. Longao, your bloodline seal can't be undone unless you rely on yourself. Bloodline seal? Could it be that the other party knew about his background? Longao had been brooding over the matter of his bloodline being sealed. He asked impatiently, I want to know the truth. Until now, Longao still did not know who the other party was or where they came from. It was all a mystery. The wordless heavenly book can only be opened by your bloodline. Even I couldn't comprehend the entire wordless heavenly book back then. I hope you can comprehend it in this life. You don't have much time left. F***ck. What was the meaning of this? From the beginning to the end, Longao could not understand a single word that the other party said. It was as if they were from two different worlds, speaking two different languages. You don't have the qualifications to know. When your bloodline seal is undone, you will know everything. Next, you have to focus on comprehending the wordless heavenly book. I have no way to impart it to you. It seemed that it was impossible for him to know the truth. Bloodline seal. Longao knew how strong the power that sealed his bloodline was. Could it be possible with his own strength? Longao was not confident, because according to what Violet's spirit and Long Fu had said, the strength of the original body that sealed his own bloodline had even surpassed the heavenly Tao. Such a terrifying existence, didn't that mean that he had to first step onto the peak of martial arts before he could attempt to undo the bloodline seal in his body? I don't need to ask about other things. I just want to know who you are. Ha! After a burst of laughter, the young man had already disappeared, which made Longao confused. The wordless heavenly book was just a space. If he wanted to comprehend it, he had to enter the space. At this moment, Longao was not in the mood to comprehend it. He left the space. In the courtyard, Longao sat alone for 3 whole days. No matter who came, Longao would not meet them. Even his parents and grandpa. This had never happened before. In the past, no matter what happened to Longao, as long as his parents came, Longao would meet them. This was the only time. And because of this, Longao and the others were extremely worried. They did not know what had happened to Longao. Father, I'm worried about Aoor. He waved his hand. Longao was more worried than anyone else. But he knew his grandson well. He sighed and said helplessly, Aoor knows what he's doing. No matter who it is, without Longao's summons, no one is allowed to enter. Otherwise, we'll kill them all. Long Yi and Mulin were worried as well. They knew what their father meant. Aoor must have met with something. Otherwise, Aoor would not meet with anyone. Just as they had guessed. At that moment, Longao was unable to regain his senses for a long time. That was because he truly couldn't understand why a person who looked exactly like him would suddenly appear. Furthermore, the words of the other party contained hidden meanings. In this life, the bloodline seal, the comprehension of the wordless heavenly book. Everything seemed to have been arranged by fate. Longao had a feeling that he was like a chess piece. No matter how he moved, he could not escape from the hands of the chess player. Although this feeling was a little strange, Longao believed in it. Brother Long, what's going on? This was too shocking. Even Longao himself did not want to believe it. Therefore, no matter who it was, he would not tell them, not even Bai Ling. Nothing. I just don't understand some things. Bai Ling, I want to ask you. Have you and your sister's original strength surpassed the heaven's will? This kind of question was a bit laughable. Other than the God Diviner, Longao could not think of anyone else who could surpass the heavenly Daos. It was still the same sentence. Longao always had a kind of feeling that the strength of Ziling and Bai Ling seemed to be above the heavenly way when they were in the original body. He had already wanted to ask this question before, but he had never asked. Yes. Longao nodded. Bai Ling's words directly provoked him. As expected, he had been a frog at the bottom of a well. The heavenly Daos were not some bullshit martial heaven continent's strongest expert. It seemed that the God Diviner was not the only one whose strength surpassed the heavenly Daos. There were also 2 Jianlings, Xilings, and Bai Lings. In that case, once Xiling and Bai Ling's cultivation bases recovered to their peak, wouldn't killing the heavenly Daos be a matter of minutes? Brother Long, I know what you mean. My sister and I were too heavily injured back then. We won't be able to recover in a day. Speaking up to this point, Bai Ling sighed deeply, as if there was something that she couldn't say. Bai Ling didn't say anything, and Longao didn't continue asking. At this time, Xiling's figure appeared. He glared at Bai Ling and icily said, If you tell him everything, aren't you afraid of causing his death? Causing his own death? This problem seemed to be a little serious. Chapter 1089. Sister. Bai Ling was a little scared and trembled with fear. Xiling, it's not that serious, is it? Longao, I know you have a lot of questions in your heart. I've already said that with your current strength, it's not time for you to know. When it's time for you to know, I won't hide it from you. What's wrong with Xiling? Xiling's sudden outburst had caught Longao off guard. Before Longao could speak, Xiling continued. I can tell you this. In the Tianwu continent, other than us sisters, there are only 2 people who can defeat Tian Dao. The clairvoyant? Who was the other person? You don't have to. I don't know who the other person is either. According to Xiling, there were a total of 5 people who had reached the peak of the martial Dao in the Tianwu continent. Xiling, Bai Ling, the clairvoyant, Tian Dao, and 1 other person. If Longao knew that there were 5 people at the peak of the martial Dao, including Long Batyin, who knew what he would think? Longao, I've already said everything I can. Regardless of whether Bai Ling was willing or not, Xiling pulled Bai Ling and disappeared from the courtyard. They returned to the Master God's sword. He shrugged helplessly. Before Longao could figure out what was going on, a servant's voice came from outside. Tang Hao? Longao did not know why Tang Hao had come to Longao Peak at this time. However, he had a good impression of this person. He was a guest. Within Longao Peak. Tang Hao came to Longao Peak alone and happened to meet Yi Wushuang, who was looking for Longao. At this moment, Tang Hao did not leak any aura. He looked like an ordinary martial artist. Tang Hao appeared, and so did Longao. When enemies met, their eyes turned red. Longao, give me your life. Longao didn't move, but Tang Hao did. Yi Wushuang came and left quickly. If Tang Hao had not shown mercy, that move alone would have been enough to take Yi Wushuang's life. Yi Wushuang was extremely shocked as he got up from the ground with much difficulty. If a Nirvana realm martial artist wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. Yi Wushuang did not dare to stay any longer. He did not even dare to say anything. He turned around and left quickly. Soon, he disappeared without a trace. Thank you? Longao, your dragon sect? Longao smiled and said, Follow me. Then, he led Tang Hao to the cave. So there's a whole other world here. Only Longao and Tang Hao were in the hall of the cave. Tang Hao was very surprised because he didn't sense that there was such a huge cave under Longao Peak. Longao didn't want to talk about this. He still had a lot of things to do. He went straight to the point. May I know why you're here, old Tang? Longao, the chief already knows that you killed Shengguaniye. I'm here under the chief's orders to bring you back. As expected. Longao had already guessed Tang Hao's purpose for coming. He secretly scoffed and said, Old Tang, there's no need to talk about our relationship. Therefore, I don't want to fall out with you. Please go ahead. Longao, it's my business whether I come or not, and it's your business whether you go or not. I don't have to bring you back. Don't worry. After what happened last time, Shengguaniye won't dare to come again. Otherwise, the person who came this time would be Shengguaniye and not me. Old Tang, to be honest, I've encountered something very important recently. Therefore, if there's nothing else, I won't keep you company. Asking him to leave? Tang Hao was a little dumbfounded after being asked to leave by Longao. Because with his status, even the other deputy chiefs or the elders of the other super forces wouldn't dare to do this, let alone Longao. Now that things had come to this, Tang Hao couldn't stay any longer. Long Haosher's figure appeared as he watched the figure disappear. He sighed. Long Haosher didn't expect his grandson to be so domineering. He didn't even give face to the deputy chief of the Martial Artists Alliance. The deputy chief of the Martial Arts Alliance, regardless of strength or status, was there. Or will Tang Hao be unhappy with what you did? Grandpa, I know what you mean. I don't care if Tang Hao is happy or not. Longao didn't stay any longer. He returned to his residence, which was the so-called courtyard, and continued to think about the problem just now. Longao was a little stunned. He stood there dumbfounded. Was it really okay for his grandson to do this? His grandson had grown up. Longao couldn't do anything about it. In the courtyard, Longao was still thinking about the matter in the wordless heavenly book. That person who looked and had the same figure as him. After thinking about it for a day, Longao had no choice but to temporarily stop thinking about it. He entered the space of the wordless heavenly book and began to comprehend the so-called sure kill technique. It was very difficult. Longao found it very difficult to comprehend the sure kill technique. Just like that, 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. 10 days in advance, Longao left Longao Peak and headed to the Long family in the Tianwu continent. If it was someone else, since they had already left the Long family, they would definitely not return to the Long family. As for Longao, it was the opposite. He knew that returning to the Long family would be dangerous, but he still insisted on going. This was the so-called knowing that there is a tiger in the mountain, but still going to the mountain. In the Tianwu continent. Martial Artists Alliance. Tang Hao returned to the Martial Artists Alliance, but he didn't bring Longao back. This shocked everyone in the Martial Artists Alliance. In fact, many people had already guessed that with Tang Hao's strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to bring Longao back. But what was the result? Many people didn't care about it because it had nothing to do with them. This was because people with discerning eyes could tell that the relationship between Tang Hao and Longao was definitely not simple. Otherwise, Tang Hao would have brought Longao back. The person who was the most unhappy and angry when Tang Hao didn't bring Longao back was Shang Guanyi. In Shang Guanyi's opinion, Tang Hao did it on purpose. Tang Hao, as the deputy chief of the Martial Artists Alliance, Longao made a big mistake. No matter how the alliance deals with him, you should bring him back first. But what about you? I want to ask you, where do you place the alliance? Place your sister. Tang Hao despised Shang Guanyi in his heart. He didn't hold back at all. In front of the chief and the other 6 deputy chiefs, he said, I went to Longao's peak and fought with Longao. Unfortunately, he was very weak. The Nirvana Divine Beast was too strong. I can guarantee that I tried my best. Other than the chief, no one here is a match for it. Everyone was shocked. No one had expected that the Nirvana Divine Beast by Longao's side would be so strong. Even Deputy Chief Tang Hao was no match for it. No wonder Deputy Chief Tang Hao couldn't bring it back. Tang Hao, do you think I will believe you? Shang Guanyi didn't believe him. Chapter 1090. Shang Guanyi, are you asking for trouble? Everyone looked at Shang Guanyi with disdain. She was indeed shameless to the extreme. She waved her hand. Tong Tiandi, who had been silent all this time, said unhappily, Shang Guanyi, you've gone too far. It was obvious that Tong Tiandi was not happy to be called by his name. Shang Guanyi apologized. I was impulsive. Brother Tang, I'm sorry. Shang Guanyi, if it's possible, why don't you go there personally? I believe that with your strength, you can bring Longao back. Did Shang Guanyi dare to do it? Even if Shang Guanyi was given 10,000 guts, Shang Guanyi would not dare to go to the Zhuzhou continent. Again, Shang Guanyi was not afraid of Longao's strength. She was afraid of the Nirvana Divine Beast by Longao's side. For a moment, the hall became silent. Time passed by slowly. Not knowing how much time had passed, Shang Guanyi finally opened his mouth and said, Alliance Master, not only did Longao behead the Alliance's supreme Tao disciple, he even fought with Brother Tang. He simply did not put the Alliance in his eyes. Shang Guanyi's meaning was very clear. Provocation. This was a blatant provocation. Longao was obviously provoking the Alliance. It was simply unbearable. Prostitutes could bear it, but customers could not. Alliance Master, I hope that the 3 Alliance Masters will go to the Zhuzhou continent together to deal with Longao. If he dares to resist, kill him without mercy. Would Shang Guanyi give Longao a chance? Whether Longao was willing to go back to the Martial Artists Alliance or not, Shang Guanyi would definitely kill Longao. Enough. With a roar, Tong Tiandi's anger scared the 8 Deputy Alliance Masters. Usually, Tong Tiandi's character was very good and he never got angry. Because of this, the 8 Deputy Alliance Masters seemed to have forgotten that the Alliance Master could get angry. This matter ends here. Longao has returned to the Long family. According to the information I received, Longao will enter the source of evil. If he survives, we will discuss this matter again. Tong Tiandi stood up and left. The source of evil? Hearing the Alliance Master's words, Tang Hao and the others were shocked. That was because they all knew very well what the source of evil of the Long clan signified. Shang Guanyi was pleasantly surprised because he was almost certain that once Longao entered the origin of evil, he would definitely die. Shang Guanyi, God is watching what you do. Don't go overboard. Otherwise, you will die a horrible death. Without giving Shang Guanyi a chance to speak, Tang Hao left quickly. Looking at the disappearing figure, Shang Guanyi's face turned ugly. Long family. The news of Longao's return spread throughout the Long family. Everyone who heard the news was shocked as they did not know why Longao would come back. Knowing that he would die if he came back, no one would come back to die unless there was something wrong with his head. Long family. Inside the main hall. As for Longao's true return, not to mention the others, just Long Hang alone felt a little incredulous. He was secretly impressed. It would be great if he could take such a person under his wing. Clan leader, I have returned as promised. When can I enter the source of evil? Long Ditian was surprised and impressed by Longao's return. Although he did not want to let Longao enter the source of evil, it had already been decided. Even if he was the clan leader of the Long family, he could not change it. Tomorrow, Longao. If there is anything you can't solve, you can report it to me. As long as it's not too much, I can promise you. Thank you, clan leader. No. Since that's the case, you will enter the source of evil tomorrow at this time for a month. Longao did not say anything. He bowed and left. After Long Heng left, Longbo said impatiently, Father, Longao is not simple. If we let him enter the source of evil and something happens to him, wouldn't we lose a lot? Long Ditian did not say anything. How could he not know what Longbo meant? Father, Longao established the dragon sect. He didn't say anything, but the meaning is very clear. If we help him, and he turns around to deal with us, what should we do? He waved his hand. This matter ends here. No matter what happens, we have to nurture Longao. Long Ditian turned and left without saying anything else. Only Longbo was left in the hall. Longbo's face was ugly. As the most talented person in the Long family, he would definitely become the next clan leader in the Long family. If he was not confident, he would definitely not do it. Not to mention, Longao established the dragon sect. He definitely did not want to stay in the Long family and be nurtured by others for nothing. Would he agree? Longao establishing the dragon sect was practically provoking the Long family. Longbo could not understand what his father was thinking. If it was an ordinary person, would his father still be so tolerant? What was his father's purpose? Longbo couldn't figure it out. He really couldn't figure it out. However, he had already decided that no matter what his father decided, he wouldn't let Longao go. The source of evil this time was Longao's burial ground. Within the pavilion in the back hall of the Long family. Master God Diviner, are you sure that Longao will be the savior of the Long family in the future? Even now, Long Ditian still didn't believe it. However, the Master God Diviner's status was there. His Tao of divination was unparalleled, and he had never been wrong. If that was really the case, he would rather believe it than not. That was why Long Ditian was going all out to nurture Longao. Even if Longao established the dragon sect, he would turn a blind eye to it. Otherwise, he would have long since killed Longao. Establishing the dragon sect was a provocation to the family. The Master God Diviner's expression was ugly. However, no one dared to look down on him. Even the heavenly Taoist knew that the true number one expert of the martial heaven continent was not the heavenly Taoist, but the Master God Diviner. Even the heavenly Taoist had to be courteous to the Master God Diviner. Long Di Tian, back then, my relationship with Long Tian wasn't bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't be like this. As for whether you believe it or not, you can see for yourself. Seeing the Master God Diviner's displeasure, Long Di Tian jumped in fright. He could offend anyone, but he definitely couldn't offend the Master God Diviner. Otherwise, let alone the Long family, even if the 10 Directions tripods worked together, they still wouldn't be able to contend against the Master God Diviner. This was the Master God Diviner's terrifying power. Master God Diviner, I know what to do. I hope we can avert danger this time. Master, I really want to ask if our Long family and the dragon race's 10,000-year calamity is related to the heavenly Taoist. Although that was his guess, Long Di Tian didn't dare to be certain. Author's note: wait, there are still 2 more chapters. The rest will be updated tomorrow. There will be 15 chapters. Everyone, please count your votes. Chapter 1091. I can't tell you. It was depressing. Since the clairvoyant was unwilling to speak, Long Di Tian did not dare to ask. Long Di Tian, I won't appear for the time being. You can do as you see fit. Without giving Long Di Tian a chance to speak, the clairvoyant disappeared. Long Di Tian sat alone in the pavilion, quietly sitting there. Longao had just returned to his residence when Long Qin rushed over. Long Qin went straight to the point and asked, Longao, why did you come back? Longao smiled. Of course, he knew that Long Qin was concerned about him. There are some things that should be done and some things that shouldn't be done. That's why I came back. Longao was straightforward and did not say anything else. Before Long Qin could ask anything else, Longao continued. Long Qin, I've already made up my mind. You don't have to persuade me anymore. Long Qin sighed deeply. Without a choice, he could only stand up and leave. At night, under the starry sky, Longao was looking at the endless void alone. Tomorrow, he would enter the origin of evil. But now, he still didn't know where the origin of evil was. The night was silent. The next day, Long Di Tian and Long Heng did not appear. Only Long Bo brought Long Ao into the origin of evil. At the entrance, Long Ao, be careful. The origin of evil is listed as a forbidden area for Long family. 99% of those who enter the origin of evil will not come out alive. Do you understand what I'm saying? Long Ao nodded. How could he not know what Long Bo meant? There was no way out. Not wanting to speak any more nonsense, Long Ao entered the entrance and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Long Ao, I'll make you wish you were dead. Within the origin of evil, there were tombs everywhere. It was like a mass grave. It was eerie and gave off a gloomy feeling. Long Ao entered the origin of evil carefully. He was on his guard. It could be said that he was advancing step by step. As a forbidden area for Long family, there were too many legends about the origin of evil. Long Fu, what can you sense? The source of evil was boundless, and one couldn't see the end of it. Other than tombs and skeletons, there were only some rocks and weeds. Master, there's nothing special about this origin of sin. Nothing special? This time, Long Ao was surprised. If what Long Fu said was true, then why were most of the people who entered the origin of evil unable to leave? Wait, Master. If I'm not mistaken, this so-called source of evil should be the lair of an evil demonic dragon. Sin Devil Dragon? Long Fu, how strong is this sinful demon dragon? Intuition told Long Ao that the Sin Demon Dragon that Long Fu mentioned was definitely not simple. As expected. Master, I have already sensed it. The sinful demon dragon should be in the Nirvana realm. Damn, Long Ao cursed in his heart. He never thought that the lair of an evil demonic dragon. Why would the Long family continue to send people into this place? Could it be that there's a secret in the origin of evil? Long Fu, sense it carefully. I have a feeling that there's a secret in the origin of evil. Long Fu didn't say anything. Longao slowly walked forward. Just as he took 3 steps, the skeletons that were already dead suddenly moved. Each and every one of them flashed with green eyes. It was very terrifying. Longao was also shocked. Not daring to be careless, Longao swung the god-slaying sword in his hand without hesitation. This sword was combined with the Emperor Dragon's 9 kills and the Thunderbolt 36 styles. One could imagine how powerful this sword was. As the sword swept across, the surrounding skeletons were all severed. Longao thought that it was over, but he never expected that the severed skeletons would stand up again. In desperation, Longao continued to fight the skeletons. Firmament Devouring Art. Longao had no choice but to use the Firmament Devouring Art. A huge black vortex appeared behind him and he was ready to devour the surrounding skeletons. However, even with the Firmament Devouring Art, it was still useless. What should I do? Longao continued to release sword chi. The surrounding sword chi was filled with sword chi, forcing the skeletons away. Master, these skeletons are controlled by the remnant soul of the sinful demon dragon. Therefore, these skeletons can't be killed. Regarding this point, Longao had already guessed it. Long Fu, what should I do? Master, you have to force your way out and find the remnant soul of the sinful demon dragon. Not only can you destroy these skeletons, but you can also help Long Ming regain his consciousness. Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was pleasantly surprised. If he could help Long Ming regain his consciousness, he would charge forward regardless of whether it was a mountain of swords or a sea of flames. According to Long Fu, Longao held the god-slaying sword and forced his way out. The surrounding skeletons seemed to be moving slowly, but in fact, they were moving extremely fast. They were following behind Longao. Following Long Fu's senses, Longao dashed forward. In a short while, Longao came to a halt. The skeletons behind him all stopped as well. Longao swallowed his saliva fiercely. In front of Longao, there was a huge dragon the size of a black hill. There was no need to guess at all. Longao was almost certain that the black wolf in front of him was the so-called evil demon dragon. He was certain that the sinful demon dragon in front of him had fallen. As for its remnant soul, it was not here. Master, be careful. Before he could react, Longao's body flew out and fell hard on the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Not daring to be careless, Longao turned over because the following attacks came one after another. As expected. The sinful demon dragon was a divine beast of nirvana. If it was the sinful demon dragon at its peak, Longao would not be able to withstand a single blow. After all, a divine beast of nirvana was too powerful. However, the current situation was completely different. The sinful demon dragon had fallen. It was impossible to kill Longao with its remnant soul alone. After all, Longao had the protection of the sacred body of desolation. Wait! Boy, are you begging me for mercy? A cold voice rang out. The evil demon dragon's corpse that was clearly dead suddenly opened its eyes. Its huge body also moved slowly. Longao was not surprised at all because he was certain that the sinful demon dragon had indeed fallen. The reason why it could still move was because of its remnant soul. Beg you for mercy? Demon dragon, I'm just giving you a chance. This time, I came in mainly to devour you. Devour me? Ha ha. Hearing Longao's words, the sinful demon dragon laughed crazily as if he had heard the funniest thing in the world. Even if it had fallen and only its remnant soul was left, it was not something that a mere human could contend with. In the sinful demon dragon's opinion, the other party was simply courting death. Chapter 1092. The Sin Demon Dragon. Although he was also a member of the Dragon Clan, he was born evil. The Dragon Clan and the Long family killed him and sealed him in the Spring of Sin. Over the years, the Long family sent many disciples into the Spring of Sin. Without exception, all of them died in the Spring of Sin. Very few could leave alive. Under normal circumstances, Since the Sin demonic dragon had already been sealed, and the Sin demonic dragon had already fallen, the Long clan shouldn't be sending anyone into the origin of evil. But the result? Endless. The Long family was still unwilling to give up after losing many experts. Longao was also curious about this. He was almost certain that there must be a secret in the spring of sin. Otherwise, the Long family wouldn't be so stubborn. Human, what makes you think you can do that? Not to mention the Sin demon dragon, no one would believe that Longao could devour the Sin demon dragon. Fool! How could the Sin demon dragon stand being insulted by a mere human? He roared furiously. Without waiting for the Sin demon dragon to make a move, Longao, who was still there just now, suddenly disappeared. Huh! Looking at the human who had suddenly disappeared in front of him, the nefarious demon dragon was dumbfounded. Even if he were to fall in the future and only his remnant soul remained, it was impossible for a mere great Emperor realm expert to disappear under his nose. 100 zhang long sword she slashed through the air, and the Sin demon dragon quickly dodged. Even so, the Sin demon dragon was almost killed by the sword. If the Sin demon dragon was at his peak, he wouldn't have a problem even if he stood there and let Longao hit him. The current situation wasn't painful at all. Longao's sword she had already fused with many sword techniques, and it had a great deterrent effect on remnant souls. Even if it was the remnant soul of the sinful demon dragon, if it was careless, it would fall into eternal damnation. And this quickly. The strength of the Sin demon dragon's remnant soul was obvious. Longao knew very well that he couldn't give the Sin demon dragon any chance to breathe. Once he counterattacked, he would be in a passive position. Innate divine ability, Dragon Roar. Previously, when he entered the Long family ancestral hall and underwent the so-called second bloodline, his innate divine ability had transformed for the second time. Longao hadn't used his innate ability since the transformation. Under such circumstances, Longao also wanted to test just how powerful his second metamorphosis innate ability was. A dragon's roar resounded. The Sin demon dragon suddenly froze on the spot. His face was filled with shock because he never thought that the other party could change the flow of time around him and even lock onto his body. Not only that. At this moment, Longao's innate ability, Dragon's Roar, could even devour his opponent's remnant soul. The second awakening of his bloodline had transformed his innate ability, and at the same time, he had gained another power, which was the ability to devour souls. First lock on, then devour. Among martial artists of the same level, if Longao released his innate divine ability, who could be a match for him? However, the sinful demon dragon's strength was there for all to see. Even if it was only a remnant soul, its power was still not to be underestimated. In just a few seconds, it had forcefully broken through the lock. Thus, the devouring ability also disappeared. Human, I'll kill you! The sinful demon dragon was completely enraged. He was almost killed by a human just now. This had never happened before. Over the years, the Dragon Clan had sent in countless experts, but without exception, all of them had been killed by him. If he were to fail miserably at such an easy task, he didn't continue to think about it. However, at this moment, two swords' roar resounded. Xiling and Bailing were like lightning that soared into the sky, slashing towards the sinful demon dragon. What's that? He was startled. Before the sinful demon dragon could react, the two Jianling had already struck the sinful demon dragon's body. Longao devour. Looking at the two Jianling, Longao was a little confused. He didn't know why the two Jianling would suddenly attack. What happened? Without any hesitation, Longao carried the little one out and began to help Long Ming devour the sinful demon dragon's remnant soul. Longao, the next thing is to wait for Long Ming to devour and refine the sinful demon dragon's remnant soul. 1 month is more than enough. Long Ming devoured the sinful demon dragon's remnant soul, and Longao heaved a sigh of relief. Long Chang was done, and only Long Ming was left. All this while, Longao felt guilty. Whether it was Long Chang or Long Ming, they had almost lost their lives for him. Both of you! Longao didn't ask further, but the meaning in his words was clear. Longao certainly didn't doubt Xiling and Bai Ling's strength at their peak. However, Xiling and Bai Ling hadn't recovered to their peak yet. If they weren't careful, they might go for wool and come home shorn. He would be guilty. Xiling and Bai Ling knew what Longao meant. Bai Ling smiled and said, "Brother Long, the sinful demon dragon is at his weakest. If it were any other time, my sister and I wouldn't be able to kill him." "What do you mean?" Longao was curious. He didn't know what Bai Ling meant. When the sinful demon dragon was at his weakest? "Brother Long, you don't know. The sinful demon dragon was sealed here and was eroded by the seal's power all year round. Therefore, every year at this time is when the sinful demon dragon is at his weakest. Because of this, my sister and I can kill him in one hit." So that's how it is. Longao finally knew why he was a little puzzled when he almost killed the sinful demon dragon just now. No matter what, the sinful demon dragon's strength was obvious. Even if it was just a remnant soul, its strength was still not to be underestimated. It seemed that his luck was really good. If he came to the origin of evil at any other time, without the help of Xiling and Bai Ling, not to mention killing the sinful demon dragon, he wouldn't even be able to leave the origin of evil. "I've always had a question. Long family sealed the sinful demon dragon and directly listed it as a forbidden area. No one is allowed to enter. Why would they send experts to enter every once in a while? Is there something fishy?" Regarding this point, Longao was very curious and also very much wanted to know the reason behind it. "Longao, I know what you want to ask. Ever since we entered the origin of evil, my sister and I have been sensing. If we're not wrong, the real reason why the Long family is unwilling to let go is because, first, they don't want to give up the inheritance of the sinful demon dragon. Second, the origin of evil leads to the dragon graveyard." Longao could understand the first reason. After all, the sinful demon dragon was a nirvana divine beast. If they could obtain the inheritance of the sinful demon dragon, wouldn't they be able to become a nirvana realm warrior? This was extremely important for the Long family. Longao didn't care about the inheritance because whether the Long family could obtain the inheritance or not had nothing to do with him. What Longao cared about was the dragon graveyard. P.S. The 5th chapter has been delivered. As for the remaining 10 chapters, Little Nine will try to hurry up. He had a headache last night and didn't dare to stay up late. Chapter 1093. Xiling, where is the dragon graveyard? Longao was looking forward to it. He wanted to see the legendary dragon graveyard. After thinking about it, Xiling's expression was somewhat solemn as he said, "Longao, think carefully. The dragon graveyard is filled with danger. When the time comes, no one will be able to help you." How could Longao not know what Xiling meant? With such a rare opportunity, Longao naturally would not choose to give up. "Xiling, I've already made my decision. What about the little guy?" Looking at Long Ming in front of him, Longao left Long Chang behind and gave him a few instructions. Then, he followed Xiling's senses. The dragon graveyard was a forbidden area of the dragon clan. No matter who it was, no one was allowed to enter without permission. In the entire dragon clan, including the Long family, no one was allowed to enter. Even Long Di Tian and the heavenly divine dragon did not have the qualifications. The reason was simple. Although the heavenly divine dragon was the dragon clan's patriarch, he did not have the divine dragon pearl. Strictly speaking, the dragon graveyard did not recognize the identity of the heavenly divine dragon at all. The reason why Long Di Tian sent people into the evil spring every few days was to find a way to enter the dragon graveyard. Unfortunately, after so many years, they had not succeeded. As for him and the heavenly divine dragon, they did not dare to do so. If they angered the old ancestor, the consequences would be unimaginable. On the way, "Long Fu, when we enter the dragon graveyard, I want to borrow the aura of the primordial divine dragon and Long Tian. How about that?" Although the primordial divine dragon had completely disappeared, Longao could be sure that Long Fu would definitely retain the aura of the primordial divine dragon. Long Fu was not a fool. In an instant, he understood his master's intentions. Master, you want to refine a giant dragon soul slave? Since things had already come to this point, Longao did not hide anything and nodded his head, indicating that he admitted it. When Longao heard that they could enter the dragon graveyard from here, he was pleasantly surprised. However, the dragons that could enter the dragon graveyard were all mythical beasts. Once the refinement was successful, the army of giant dragon soul slaves would arrive. Even the 10 great tripods would not dare to dawdle. Without the aura of the primordial divine dragon, Longao would never take this risk even if he was given 100,000 guts. The situation now was different. As the ancestor of the dragon clan, the primordial divine dragon's aura alone was enough to suppress all other colossal dragons. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Master, to tell you the truth, even if we can successfully suppress it, it won't be easy to refine it into a soul slave or corpse slave. Regarding what Long Fu had said, Longao knew clearly. Longao didn't say anything. Master, we can try, but it will take a long time to refine it successfully. Alright, Long Fu, I was just thinking about this problem. If all the bones in the dragon graveyard are here, then we can refine them into corpse slaves. At that time, I'll prepare to move into the martial sky continent. On this point, Longao had already thought it through. There would definitely be a split between him and the Long family. Originally, according to his previous plan, he would have to wait until his cultivation base reached the Nirvana realm before he could split from the Long family. Otherwise, before he could split, he would be destroyed by the Long family. Long family aside, just the 10 great tripods alone could easily destroy the dragon sect. However, once he refined the giant dragon corpse slave army, the dragon sect would have something to rely on. Whether the Long family was willing or not, the dragon sect would have a guarantee to move into the martial sky continent. Long Fu didn't say anything. Without Xiling leading the way, it was almost impossible for Longao to find the dragon graveyard. Sometimes, luck was one thing, but having someone to help was also very important. In front of a huge black vortex. Until now, Longao still couldn't understand. Since Long Ditian knew that there was an entrance in the evil spring, why didn't he come in personally? Just the threat of the sinful demon dragon? The sinful demon dragon was just a Nirvana realm beast. If there were no accidents, the Long family would have at least 9 Nirvana realm warriors. There was no need for many. 3 of them could easily destroy the sinful demon dragon. He shrugged helplessly. He didn't continue to think about this problem. Just as Longao was about to enter, Long Fu's voice sounded out. Master, Long Chang has the Divine Dragon Pearl. Although he hasn't completely fused with it, the Divine Dragon Pearl is the keepsake of the Dragon Clan's patriarch. If he has the Divine Dragon Pearl, coupled with his aura, I believe that the chances of success will be much higher. Longao also came to a realization. He didn't think of this problem just now. Without any hesitation, Longao immediately returned. He and Long Fu spent a lot of effort to send Long Ming and the remnant soul of the sinful demon dragon into the dragon seal space. As for Long Chang, he followed him and prepared to enter the Dragon Clan graveyard. In front of the black vortex. Longao, have you thought about it? Longao didn't answer. He took a step forward and stepped into the black vortex. In the blink of an eye, his entire body disappeared into the black vortex. The Dragon Clan graveyard was a forbidden place for Long family. The Dragon Clan graveyard was located in the Dragon Clan's territory. No matter who it was, no one could enter the Dragon Clan graveyard. Even so, there were 2 Nirvana Realm dragons guarding the Dragon Clan graveyard. Not to mention others, even the 9 Heavens Divine Dragon couldn't enter. Still, the 9 Heavens Divine Dragon didn't belong to the Divine Dragon Clan. Strictly speaking, the 9 Heavens Divine Dragon wasn't considered the Dragon Clan's patriarch. In the huge dark space, there were huge dragon skeletons everywhere. At a glance, It was impossible to know how many dragon skeletons there were in the Dragon Clan graveyard. As soon as Longao stepped into the dragon graveyard, he was instantly stunned. He looked at it without blinking. The surrounding dragon breath was covered in layers. If it wasn't for the fact that he was already mentally prepared, he would have been crushed by so many powerful dragon breath just by entering. The Dragon Clan graveyard was indeed extraordinary. But after thinking about it, the Dragon Clan was the most powerful spiritual beast clan in the world. The number of divine beasts that had fallen in the Dragon Clan graveyard wasn't small. Seeing this situation, Longao was pleasantly surprised to the extreme in his heart. If he could refine all these corpses into corpse slaves, at that time, wouldn't it be great? Longao didn't dare to act rashly. He stood quietly because he didn't know how many dragon souls were still in the Dragon Clan graveyard. After all, any remnant soul of a dragon here could easily obliterate him. Long Fu, what should I do next? Long Fu had followed the primordial divine dragon and Long Tian for so many years. He believed that he knew better than himself what to do. Long Fu thought for a while and said, Master, in the entire Dragon Clan graveyard, the strongest divine dragon should be the number 1 general under the old master, Shui Long. If you can deal with Shui Long, then the graveyard is almost done. Chapter 1094. Blood Dragon? Longao knew that the Blood Dragon was known as the number 1 general under the primordial divine dragon. Just thinking about it, one could imagine how powerful the Blood Dragon was. Long Fu, can you sense the existence of the Blood Dragon? Looking at Long Fu, Longao saw a huge hill in the distance. The blood-red body was entrenched, and the aura it emitted was indeed very powerful. Things had already come to this point. Longao knew very well that he had no way out. Since he was here, he had to resign himself to fate. Longao was prepared to use spatial teleportation to directly go to the Blood Dragon's location. However, he realized that he couldn't use spatial teleportation smoothly, nor could he enter the dragon's seal space. What the hell happened? After thinking about it, in the end, Longao thought of an answer. There were many powerful spatial dragons in the Dragon Clan graveyard. The spatial fluctuations interfered and it was difficult for him to use spatial power. Senior Blood Dragon, I have something to see you about. As soon as Longao shouted, the Dragon Clan graveyard, which was very calm just now, suddenly exploded with dragon aura. A human entered? And it was a small great emperor? Who are you? The Blood Dragon's skeleton didn't move, but its 2 eyes suddenly opened. Its blood-red eyes were like 2 blood-red suns. It was very frightening. Longao realized that his body had moved. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of the Blood Dragon. What's your name? Senior Blood Dragon, my name is Longao. Are you a disciple of the Long family? Nodding, Longao replied. Yes. How did you come in? The Blood Dragon was very surprised because the Dragon Clan graveyard was a forbidden area of the Dragon Clan. Only the Patriarch who had merged with the Divine Dragon Pearl could enter here. In that case, how could an ordinary disciple of the Long family enter? Of course, Longao wouldn't tell the truth. Senior Blood Dragon, my partner and I passed by the forbidden area. I don't know why, but both of us were involved at the same time. Longao had an innocent look, as if he didn't know what had happened. Before the Blood Dragon could continue asking, Longao's body suddenly gave off traces of the aura of an ancient divine dragon. Ancestor's aura? Not only the Blood Dragon, but all the remnant souls of the mystical dragons also let out dragon roars. Because the aura of the old ancestor had descended, they naturally knew what it meant. The Blood Dragon finally knew why the person in front of him could enter the dragon graveyard. It turned out that it was related to the old ancestor. You've seen the ancestor? He nodded. Seeing Longao nod his head, all the remnant souls of the mystical dragons were even more astonished. All of them were extremely excited because the dragon race had declined a lot because of the fall of their ancestor. Back then, the Phoenix clan, the Qilin clan, and the Dragon clan were one of the 3 most powerful clans among all the clans of spirit beasts. The Primordial Phoenix, Primordial Qilin, and Primordial Divine Dragon were also one of the most powerful experts in ancient times. Back then, the 2 ancestors fought against the heavenly Tao and unfortunately fell. From then on, the status of the dragon race gradually became inferior to the Phoenix clan and the Qilin clan. The reason was because the 2 ancestors had fallen and the dragon race didn't have a super expert to hold down the fort. Longao, what's going on? Why do you have the aura of the old ancestor on you? Longao had already thought about it. If Long Chang could not appear, he would try his best not to appear. After all, it was better to have less trouble. If there was an accident, wouldn't he not be able to leave the dragon graveyard? Senior Blood Dragon, when I entered the dragon race previously, I accidentally saw the aura left behind by the old ancestor. He said that he wanted me to enter the dragon graveyard and help the dragon race complete their great cause. He had to admit that Longao was really shameless. He was prepared to use the identity of the primordial divine dragon to settle the dragon graveyard. After thinking about it, Longao realized that this was the safest way. As expected. What great cause! The blood dragon was very impatient. The last words left behind by the old ancestor could help the dragon race rise. As the descendants of the primordial divine dragon, they naturally wanted to do this. They had already fallen. Although they were powerful, they could not leave the dragon graveyard. From the blood dragon to the remnant soul of a certain divine dragon, once they left the dragon graveyard, they would only die. Senior Blood Dragon, the words left behind by the old ancestor are. Longao seemed to have something that was difficult to say. Speak. After mustering his courage, Longao seemed to have something that he could not say. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, Senior Blood Dragon, the old ancestor's intention is to use the bones and remnant souls of the giant dragons in the dragon graveyard to create a corpse slave army to help the dragon race rise. Corpse slave army? The blood dragon was a little vigilant because he knew very well what Longao's words meant. Did the old ancestor really say that? Senior Blood Dragon, if there's anything, you can tell the old ancestor personally. Tell him personally? How? The blood dragon was confused. Then, above Longao's head, a giant dragon phantom that was thousands of feet long suddenly appeared. It was the primordial divine dragon. When they saw the old ancestor, all the remnant souls of the divine dragons, including the blood dragon, knelt on the ground. They were all trembling, and their faces were filled with surprise and shock. Old ancestor. Cut the crap. I don't have much time. Listen carefully. Yes, old ancestor. The blood dragon was trembling with fear. He did not dare to continue talking nonsense. The primordial divine dragon represented the supreme. Even if it had fallen and only its aura remained, it was still a supreme existence. From now on, Longao is my spokesperson. If you listen to me obediently and sacrifice you, you can help my dragon clan rise. Are you not willing? No one dared to answer. Of course, no one was willing to agree. How many people in the world could refine their own bones and remnant souls into a corpse slave army? However, many of the divine dragons in the dragon graveyard were still willing. If sacrificing them in exchange for the rise of the dragon race, they would die with no regrets. After all, they had made a great contribution to the dragon race. I can no longer help the dragon race. The future of the dragon race depends on you. I hope you don't let me down. After saying this, the primordial divine dragon phantom disappeared. Longao, how do you want to refine us? With the appearance of the primordial divine dragon, the blood dragon's attitude directly took a 180-degree turn. His attitude was also respectful. After all, the primordial divine dragon had just said that Longao was his spokesperson. Even if he looked down on him, on the surface, the blood dragon would definitely not show it. How to refine them? If an outsider were to hear blood dragon's words, they would probably be scared to death. To think that he would ask to be refined by someone else. This was a complete idiot. However, it was still the same sentence. For the dragon race to rise up, sacrificing oneself was necessary. P.S. I was so scared that I peed my pants. When I didn't explode, there were a lot of rewards and tickets. Today, there were 15 chapters of exploding. There were no rewards and no tickets. Is everyone not willing to see Little Nine explode? If so, Little Nine really wouldn't dare to explode in the future. Chapter 1095. Longao's actions could be said to be seeking riches and honor in danger. Once he failed, he would die without a doubt. The primordial divine dragon had already disappeared. How could it reappear in the dragon graveyard? The imagination that appeared just now was all planned by Longao. It could be considered to have deceived everyone. Longao used the aura of the primordial divine dragon to let Long Chang pretend to be a primordial divine dragon. Fortunately, the blood dragon did not sense it, otherwise, it would definitely be exposed. Since things had already come to this point, he had to go all out. After calming down a little, Longao was pleasantly surprised. Senior Blood Dragon, the old ancestor left me a space. All of you enter it, the old ancestor will personally refine it. Hearing that the old ancestor was going to personally refine them, the Blood Dragon felt a little better. Looking at all the clansmen behind him, the Blood Dragon was very reluctant. There was no other way. For the rise of the Dragon Clan, they had to sacrifice themselves. For the rise of the Dragon Clan, we have to sacrifice ourselves. If you are unwilling, you can stay. We are willing. In unison, tens of thousands of dragon remnant souls, none of them were unwilling. Seeing this situation, the Blood Dragon was very satisfied. Longao was a little moved. If not for the fact that he had no other choice, he was really unwilling to do such a thing. Ever since he entered the Sky Martial continent, he found that it was getting more and more difficult to move. If he could have the help of the Divine Dragon Corps slave army, not only him, even the Dragon sect could enter the Sky Martial continent. Longao, let's begin. Nodding. Longao did not continue to hesitate and opened the Dragon Seal space. With the help of Long Fu's power, as long as tens of thousands of divine dragon remnant souls entered the Dragon Seal space, then they would not be able to control it. Next, a divine dragon remnant soul followed another divine dragon remnant soul and began to gradually enter the Dragon Seal space. Seeing countless divine dragon remnant souls entering the Dragon Seal space, Longao was pleasantly surprised. After a rough calculation, there were about 10,000 of them in the entire dragon graveyard, and all of their remnant souls were preserved. Without a divine soul, it was impossible to refine a corpse slave, let alone a soul slave. After a full 10 minutes, all of the divine dragon remnant souls entered the Dragon Seal space, leaving only the Blood Dragon. He looked at the dragon graveyard reluctantly. Long, I hope that you can promise me one thing. Senior, please speak. Longao could almost guess what the Blood Dragon wanted to say. After all, it was the Blood Dragon that could refine more than 10,000 divine dragon remnant souls. If it were him, he would not be able to do it. Longao, no matter what happens in the future, even if you take 10,000 steps back and leave your Long family behind, I hope that you can help the Dragon Clan when they are in trouble. As expected. If it was in the past, Longao would never have agreed. However, this time, Longao was a little embarrassed to settle the matter of the Dragon Clan's tomb, so he nodded and said, Senior, don't worry, I will do it. After watching for a full 3 seconds, the Blood Dragon finally gritted its teeth and entered the Dragon Seal space as well. Since then, all the remnant souls of the divine dragons in the entire dragon graveyard had entered the Dragon Seal space. As long as there was no problem with the Dragon Seal space, there would not be any problems with the refinement. Soul slave? Corpse slave? Longao still had not decided whether to refine a soul slave or a corpse slave. Comparing the two was a different concept. The soul slave that was refined was stronger than the corpse slave. However, the soul slave could not leave the Dragon Seal space for too long. If it was by his side, the soul slave would be more useful. However, Longao had already thought about it. After refining the corpse slave, the dragon sect could enter the Sky Martial continent and rise up. At that time, even if there were 10 forces, they would not dare to provoke the dragon sect. Master, are you going to refine a soul slave or a corpse slave? Seeing that his master was still hesitating, Long Fu did not dare to make a decision. No matter what, Longao was his master. Long Fu, how long will it take to refine all of them into corpse slaves? This was the matter that Longao was most concerned about. Over 1,000 divine Tao inheritances. Once they were refined, the dragon sect would have over 1,000 divine Tao experts. Adding on the army of over 10,000 divine Tao corpse slaves, the dragon sect would have the qualifications to enter the Sky Martial continent. Master, I will do my best. However, if I want to refine an army of over 10,000 divine dragon corpse slaves by myself, it will take me at least 3 years. 3 years? It was too slow. Longao really couldn't wait, because in 3 years, a lot of things could happen. No one knew what would happen at that time. Long Fu, is there any way to speed up the refinement? Longao was no fool. Since Long Fu had said so, there had to be a way. Long Fu thought for a moment and said, Master, the Dragon Tomb is a treasure land. It is also the center of the Long family. As long as I refine it here, I believe it will be twice the result with half the effort. Without waiting for Longao to speak, Long Fu continued, Master, to tell you the truth, with the power of the Dragon Seal Space, it is impossible to refine the remnant souls of the Blood Dragon and the other divine dragons. After some calculations, I think it would be better for me to refine the divine dragons and refine all the dragon remnant souls of the supreme divine beasts to help the dragon seal recover. He was unwilling to accept this. However, in the end, it would be Long Fu refining the corpse slaves. Long Fu could do whatever he wanted. However, Longao was still a bit unhappy about this. Long Fu, refining the divine dragon's remnant souls isn't a problem. As for the other divine dragon's remnant souls, I think we should leave them behind and slowly refine them. If he wanted to rise on the martial heaven continent, the remnant souls of the blood dragon and the other divine dragons were too important. Although he also wanted to recover the dragon seal space, losing the blood dragons and the other corpse slaves was impossible. Master, since that's the case, let me calculate. There are over 1,000 divine dragons. I'll help you refine them first. As for the remaining divine dragon's remnant souls, I'll slowly refine them. Within 3 years, I'll definitely finish them for you. Thank you for your hard work. Longao was very shocked. The Dragon Clan was indeed the Dragon Clan. It was indeed the most powerful clan in the world. It was hard for Longao to imagine that if the dragons in the Dragon Clan graveyard could be reborn, the strength of the Dragon Clan would increase by more than 10 times. Master, I forgot to tell you. Of the over 10,000 divine dragon remnant souls, 8,700 are too damaged. I can't refine them. I can only merge them to restore the dragon seal space. So of the 1,000 divine dragon corpse slaves, I'll help you refine the remaining 300 divine dragon remnant souls within 3 years. All right. Longao had long since guessed this. If they could refine over 10,000 divine dragon remnant souls into corpse slaves, then let alone rising on the martial heaven continent, even contending with the 10 directions divine beasts wouldn't be a problem. Even so, with over 1,000 divine dragon corpse slaves and over 1,000 divine realm experts of the dragon sect, it was more than enough for them to enter the martial heaven continent. They could already start trying to enter the martial heaven continent. Once they had over 1,000 divine realm experts, it would be the time for the dragon sect to rise. Chapter 1096. 1 month later. Long Ming swallowed the remnant soul of the Sin Demon Dragon and successfully regained his peak strength. As for refining the divine dragon corpse slave army, with the help of the dragon graveyard, Long Fu swallowed more than 8,700 divine dragon remnant souls. Not only did he help the dragon seal space, he even succeeded in refining it. In 1 month, he successfully refined over 1,000 divine dragon corpse slaves. What kind of concept was that? Master, even if the refining is successful, are you really going to announce it to the world? With regards to Long Fu's intention, Longao was very clear in his heart. Regarding this matter, Longao really hadn't thought it through. Long Fu, can you find the exit? Seeing that his master wasn't willing to say more, Long Fu didn't continue asking. Master, you're not going to go back the way you came? With regards to this, Longao had already thought about it. If he went back the way he came, he believed that Long Heng wouldn't let him go. He could hide for a while, but he couldn't hide forever. Longao didn't want to cause any more trouble. He was prepared to take drastic measures. Master, I can sense it. Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was pleasantly surprised. He immediately followed Long Fu's senses and left the dragon graveyard. At a place not far from the Long family, Longao looked at the Long family in the distance, and sneered in his heart. If nothing unexpected happened, the Long family would definitely think that he had died in the evil spring. In that case, he could use another identity to bring Longao to the Sky Martial continent. Just as Longao guessed. Long family, at the entrance of the evil spring. Long Ditian, Longao, Long Bo, Long Chin and the others were all waiting here. Because a month had passed, if Longao didn't die, he would be teleported out of the evil spring. A day had already passed, but Longao still hadn't come out. Didn't that mean that Longao had died in the evil spring? Long Ditian didn't say anything and sighed deeply. Master God Diviner had said that Longao was the savior of the Long family. Now that he was dead, what would happen to the Long family? After Long Ditian and Long Bo left, Long Chin seemed to be unable to accept this reality. He could only sigh and leave. Long Heng, who was left behind, was very happy. Seeing Longao fall, Long Ditian was very disappointed. Long Heng had won this round, and as for the dragon sect, since Longao was already dead, Long Heng would not lower himself to deal with a small dragon sect. Long family. Inside the main hall. Father, Longao is dead. The oracle's prophecy has been destroyed. He waved his hand. Long Ditian was very unhappy. He had never thought that Longao would enter the origin of evil without leaving. If he had known earlier, he would never have agreed to let Longao enter the origin of evil. Longao has fallen. My Long family will be in big trouble. Father, it's the grandson of the oracle again? Nodding his head, Long Ditian did not try to hide anything. He recounted everything that the God Diviner had said to him previously. After hearing this, Long Bo instantly knew why his father was doing this. However, in Long Bo's heart, he did not put the oracle in his eyes at all. Other than the fact that the oracle's cultivation had reached the peak of the martial Tao, how could his Tao of divination be so accurate? If the oracle was really so powerful, Longao would not have died this time. In the end, the oracle's Tao of divination was only SOSO. Not to mention Long Bo, even Long Ditian did not believe in the oracle. No matter what, Longao had died in the origin of evil. Father, what should we do now? From the beginning to the end, no one knew what the so-called 10,000-year calamity was. The oracle did not say it clearly. Let me think about it. Long Ditian did not say anything. The entire hall was silent. To the entire Long clan, Longao was nothing. Especially to the entire Tianwu continent, he was even less important. Therefore, whether or not Longao had fallen was nothing to the Long family and the entire Tianwu continent. It was like a drop of water falling into the sea. It could not even cause a ripple. 9 Prefectures Continent. Netherworld Mansion Main Hall. Wei Yang, I just received news that Longao had entered the Long family's forbidden land, the origin of evil. He has entered but not come out. Hearing Lei Luo's words, Wei Yang's face lit up. It's good that he's dead. Big brother Lei Luo, since Longao is already dead, should we go all out and destroy the dragon sect? If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it would grow again. However, Lei Luo waved his hand and said with a smile, Longao is dead. Only the dragon sect is left. It is not important whether or not it is destroyed. Do you understand? Brother Lei Luo, what if? There's no what if. If we don't show mercy to a small dragon sect, people will gossip about us. Since that's the case, I won't stay here any longer. Tomorrow, I'll prepare to return to the Tianwu continent. Lei Luo nodded. The matter had already been resolved. Whether or not he stayed was no longer important. Longao Peak. Longao had returned safely. Longao and the others were delighted. How could they not be excited that their grandson was fine? Longao got straight to the point. He immediately told his grandfather his thoughts. The dragon sect returned to the peak. However, the news that Longao was still alive was sealed by the dragon sect. Only a few people knew about it. Of the 1,000 Divine Dragon Corps slaves, Longao had left 500 of them in the dragon sect. As for the remaining 500, they were given to Long Ying. Longao's intentions were clear. He wanted his big brother to establish a branch of the dragon sect on the Tianwu continent. That way, they could look after each other. Even if something happened, they could withdraw from the Tianwu continent and return to the 9 provinces continent. This time, in order to temper his family's disciples, not just the Long family's disciples, but also the Wang family's disciples, the Mu family's disciples, as well as Long Ao's friends. As for Long Haoshi and the others, they continued to watch over the headquarters. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Long Ao had brought Long Ying and the others to the Tianwu continent. They had encountered Lei Luo on the way. That was just courting death. If he hadn't refined the Divine Dragon Corps slave army, Long Ao naturally wouldn't have gone to deal with Lei Luo. No matter what, Lei Luo was still a divine path expert. However, the current situation was completely different. With over 500 divine dragons, any 2 of them could easily kill Lei Luo. This was a rare opportunity. Long Ao couldn't easily give it up. Lei Luo, long time no see. I trust you've been well since we last met. There was no one around. Lei Luo looked at the people in front of him, especially Long Ao. He was shocked. He had already received news that Long Ao had entered the evil spring and hadn't come out. Since that was the case, why was Long Ao here? Could it be that the Long family had intentionally spread false news? Thinking of that, Lei Luo's expression instantly turned cold. Chapter 1097. Long Ao, it has indeed been a long time since we last met. So what if Long Ao wasn't dead? So what if Long Ao had broken through to the martial emperor realm? Even if there were tens of thousands of people before him, what could they do to him? What a joke. From the start till the end, Lei Luo had never placed Long Ao in his eyes. That was because a martial emperor and a martial emperor were 2 completely different existences. The 2 of them couldn't be compared at all. They weren't even on the same level. Lei Luo, do you think that you can leave this place alive? Ha! Hearing Long Ao's words, Lei Luo laughed out maniacally, as though he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. To think that a bunch of low-leveled martial artists would dare to boast about wanting to kill him. Was that even possible? Long Ao and the others did not say anything. They just watched silently. Everyone behind them was getting more excited than the other. Killing a martial emperor was something that they would never have dared to dream of in the past. But right now, it was a dream come true. Martial artists of the Supreme Tao were supreme existences in the Jiuzhou continent. Shaking his head helplessly, Long Ao summoned 10 God Dragon Corps slaves from the Dragon Seal space. They swarmed forward. Before Lei Luo could finish laughing, he was drowned by 10 God Dragon Corps slaves. In fact, before he could even react, Lei Luo was killed instantly. Looking at the scene before them, everyone could not help but gulp down their saliva. This was way too shocking. 7th brother, when we head over to the Sky Martial continent, if I were to become the master, wouldn't I be unable to control the situation? Looking at seventh brother beside him, Longing knew that the distance between him and seventh brother was getting bigger and bigger. Even if he had obtained the inheritance of the martial emperor, the entire Long family knew that Longao did not cultivate the inheritance of the martial emperor. It wasn't that he didn't have it. It was just that he didn't care for it. That was the reason why Longing wasn't confident. In his opinion, seventh brother was the most suitable candidate. If he were to become the master of the dragon sect, wouldn't that be a little too much? How could Longao not know what his elder brother meant? Smiling, Longao said, "First, you are the eldest son of the family. The position of master of the dragon sect is yours. Second, due to certain reasons, my identity cannot be revealed. So you can be at ease as the master of the dragon sect. In the future you will definitely become the peak figure of the martial heaven continent." He was touched and grateful. Without seventh brother, he wouldn't be where he was today. Since the matter had already reached this point, Longing did not say much either. Nether Mansion. "Master, why have you come personally?" Seeing his master suddenly appear, Wei Yang was scared out of his wits. He really couldn't understand why his master would appear for no reason. Could it be that something had happened? He Sha's expression was very ugly as he asked, "Lei Luo left?" "Yes. Lei Luo is dead." "Huh!" Hearing his master's words, Wei Yang was dumbfounded. Lei Luo was dead? "Master, what is going on?" Let alone Wei Yang, even He Sha was a bit confused. Lei Luo's strength was there for all to see. Furthermore, everyone in the martial heaven continent knew that Lei Luo was one of He Sha's people. Who would be so daring as to attack Lei Luo? He Sha possessed Lei Luo's soul. The first person to know of Lei Luo's death was He Sha. Furthermore, he had found Lei Luo's corpse based on his aura. Losing Lei Luo had a huge impact on He Sha. Many things were done by Lei Luo. Furthermore, the other party clearly knew that Lei Luo was one of his people, yet they still dared to attack him. This was clearly not putting him in their eyes. The other party killed Lei Luo. This is not giving me face. I will definitely investigate this matter. Master, in the 9 prefectures continent, there are no deities. With Lei Luo's strength, it is impossible for anyone to kill him. Unless it was the 10-direction tripod or the other powers of the martial heaven continent. He Sha nodded. He had already thought of what his disciple had said. Who was it? Thinking about it, He Sha was still unable to determine who it was that wanted to go against him. For the other party to be able to kill Lei Luo meant that their strength was not simple. Martial Heaven Continent. Longao, Longing, and the others had already entered the Martial Heaven Continent after dozens of days of traveling. Everyone was shocked. They had not expected that there were 4 other continents outside of the 9 prefectures continent. Eastern Prefecture, Western Region, Southern Sea, Northern Plains, and Middle Martial Heaven Continent. Eastern Prefecture, Western Region, Southern Sea, Northern Plains, and Middle Martial Heaven Continent. Compared to the 5 continents, the Middle Martial Heaven Continent was the strongest. That was because the 10-direction tripod were all located in the Middle Martial Heaven Continent. Even the Southern Sea, which was the outer sea, was unable to contend against the Middle Martial Heaven Continent. Seventh brother, have you thought about where our dragon sect will be located? Longao nodded. Longao had already thought about the dragon sect's location. Before Longao could speak, Dugubai and Sheiji walked over with a smile. Brother Long, Longing has already become the dragon sect's master. Do you think it would be possible for me to become the dragon sect's vice master? Saying that he didn't want to climb up was definitely a lie. Dugubai and his wife were very clear that the dragon sect would definitely rise on the Martial Heaven continent in the future. At that time, their name would spread throughout the continent. If they could become the dragon sect's vice master, wouldn't they be able to bask in the glory? There was no need to even think about becoming the dragon sect's master. Even if Longao didn't want it, it wouldn't be his turn. After all, no matter how good their friendship was, Longao couldn't possibly give the position to an outsider. Dugubai had only asked this probingly. The position of the Dragon Sect's vice master was obvious. However, they hadn't expected that Longao would nod. All right. Brother Dugu, from now on, you will be the Dragon Sect's vice master. However, you won't be the only one. Please don't mind. He agreed. Dugubai suppressed his joy and nodded repeatedly. No problem. The Martial Heaven continent was too big. The best regions had already been occupied by the 10 direction cauldrons. The remaining regions were divided according to their strength. The Martial Heaven continent's powers were divided into first-rate, second-rate, third-rate, and fourth-rate powers. The 10 direction cauldrons were first-rate powers. As for the Black Wind Valley and the Clear Sky sect, they were slightly stronger fourth-rate powers and slightly weaker third-rate powers. Longao was very clear that with the Dragon Sect's current strength, even if they only had 500 Divine Dragon Corps slaves, they could still be considered a second-rate power. It was just that they didn't have any peak experts. Longao could almost be sure that the second-rate forces of the Sky Martial Continent, even if they didn't have a Nirvana Realm martial artist holding down the fort, they definitely had a Supreme Divine Way martial artist holding down the fort. Therefore, unless it was a last resort, he still wouldn't go against the second-rate forces. The Martial Heaven continent's southeastern region. The place Longao had chosen was extremely far from the 10 direction cauldrons. Furthermore, Longao was preparing to act in a low-key manner at the beginning. Dragon Peak, Longao finally chose a barren mountain with a pretty good environment as the base camp of the Dragon Sect. Chapter 1098. Over 10,000 people built Longao at the same time. In just a few days, the Dragon Peak had changed a lot. The Dragon Peak. Big Brother Dugu, how's the investigation going? Brother Long Master, I've already investigated. Dugubai picked up the teacup on the table and drank a few mouthfuls. He was sweating profusely. Around the Dragon Peak, there's only one fourth-rate force called the Sky Wolf Sect. Sky Wolf Sect? According to the information Dugubai had gathered, the two of them roughly knew about the Sky Wolf Sect. The Sky Wolf Sect was a fourth-rate force. The number one expert was the leader of the Sky Wolf Sect, Yi Shao. He was a titled Great Sovereign and dominated the area. Longao was clear that if the Dragon Sect wanted to develop quietly, they had to deal with the Sky Wolf Sect first. Seventh brother, do you want to do it, or should I? As the master of the Dragon Sect, Longing was gradually acting like a master. Not to mention, the Dragon Sect now had 500 Divine Dragon Corps slaves. Any one of them could easily deal with the Sky Wolf Sect. Longao knew what his big brother meant. Big brother, 500 Divine Dragon Corps slaves. I believe you know what that means. The Long family can't know about this. Seventh brother, I understand. Big brother, with our current strength, we're still no match for the Long family. Unless it's absolutely necessary, we can't use the 500 Divine Dragon Corps slaves. Longin wasn't an idiot. He instantly understood what his seventh brother meant. Seventh brother, if that's the case, the Sky Wolf Sect can only be dealt with by you. Personally. Longao was clear that even with his current strength, he couldn't kill the leader of the Sky Wolf Sect. At the very least. If they didn't use the 500 Divine Dragon Corps slaves, the Dragon Sect couldn't even deal with a fourth-rate force with their current strength. However, the strongest cultivator in the Dragon Sect, Longing, had just reached the Great Sovereign stage. Could it be that they had to keep waiting like this? This time, there were over 1,000 inheritors of the Divine Tao, and Longao had brought half of them. According to the speed of refining the inheritance, it would take 10 years or even longer. Could the Dragon Sect wait? Longao lowered his head and pondered. Dugubai and Longing did not dare to say anything. They all looked at Longao. Longing and Dugubai looked at each other and sighed helplessly. The two of them were very clear in their hearts that it would not be easy to make a name for themselves in the Sky Martial Continent. In the Sky Martial Continent, there were countless experts and sections. Time trickled by. After an unknown amount of time, Longao finally raised his head and said, "Big brother, I'll take care of the Heavenly Wolf gang. It seems that the dragon sex situation is still a bit troublesome. Seventh brother, don't force things. We can wait." "Big brother, I understand what you mean." After Longao left, he did not immediately search for the Heavenly Wolf sect. He had already decided to take advantage of this time to set up a powerful array formation. Even if something happened to the dragon sect one day, the array formation might be able to withstand it. This time, Longao was prepared to set up the formation properly. Other than the Heavenly Wolf gang, there was only one small city within 100 miles of Dragon Peak. Clear Sky Sect. Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu hurriedly entered the main hall. The two of them spoke at the same time with some urgency. "Grandfather, we just received news that Longao entered the Long family's forbidden land, the origin of evil. He entered but did not come out. He has already fallen in the origin of evil." Yan Yu's expression was very calm. She coldly snorted and said, "Longao is not dead." "Longao is not dead?" Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu were astonished when they heard their grandfather's words. How could the news from the Long clan be fake? Long family's forbidden land, the origin of evil, was something that both Zhao Yu and Yang Dingtian knew very well. How many people who entered the origin of evil could come out alive? "Grandfather, what exactly is going on? I have already locked onto Longao's position. If Longao had already fallen, how could I still lock onto him?" So that was the case. Hearing that their grandfather had already locked onto Longao's position, Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu were pleasantly surprised. It did not matter if Longao had already fallen. If their grandfather personally made a move, Longao would definitely die. "Grandfather, when do we make our move?" Yang Dingtian was a little impatient. He could not wait to kill Longao immediately and take back the god-punishing sword. "One day later. Qian'er will come out tomorrow. At that time, the four of us will occupy the four cardinal directions. I don't believe that Longao will be able to escape from our hands." "Qian'er." Yang Dingtian felt a deep sense of helplessness when his daughter was mentioned. Until now, he still did not know why his grandfather wanted to drag Qian'er into this mess. However, their grandfather was very scary now. The two of them did not dare to speak. If their grandfather was in a bad mood and killed them, how could they seek justice? One day later, Longao used all his strength to set up the array. According to all the array formations in the Burning Sky array art, Longao still chose the previous 10 array formations. They were the so-called 9 heavens and 10 earths killing array, 10,000 ghosts devouring soul array, chaos everlasting array, nirvana void lifeless array, 3 lives 3 deaths soul dispersing array, hidden dragon divine annihilation array, 6 wheels ghost fiend array, limitless tornado illusion array, 12 divine fiends array, and 3 lives 3 deaths soul dispersing array. Not only that. In order to be foolproof, Longao not only set up the 10 array formations, but he also set up other array formations. First origin, second chi, third talent, fourth absolute, fifth element, sixth on, seventh star, 8 trigrams, ninth palace, 10th absolute, 36 celestial dipper, and 72 earthly fiends. With so many array formations, Longao had full confidence that even if a Supreme Tao warrior came, he would be able to block them. If he wanted to kill a Supreme Tao warrior, or a Supreme Tao warrior, he would have to break through to the Supreme Tao Array Master in his array formation realm. The ranks of Array Masters, from lowest to highest, were First Level Array Master, Second Level Array Master, Third Level Array Master, Fourth Level Array Master, Fifth Level Array Master, Sixth Level Array Master, Seventh Level Array Master, 8th Level Array Master, 9th Level Array Master, King Array Master, Emperor Array Master, Venerable Array Master, Emperor Array Master, and Divine Array Master. Longao was now only an Emperor Array Master. There was still a long way to go before he could become a Divine Array Master. An Emperor Array Master was only one step away from becoming a Divine Array Master. However, this step was as difficult as ascending to the sky. After all, the situation of an Array Master was different from a warrior. The talent required for an Array Master was more demanding than that of a warrior. He felt uneasy. Longao did not continue to set up array formations. After all, setting up array formations was not something that could be done overnight. He left the Dragon Peak and headed towards the only small city within 100 miles. The city was not big and could only accommodate 100,000 people. This was the Sky Wolf Gang's territory, so the Sky Wolf Gang had forcibly named this city Sky Wolf City. Chapter 1099. Inside Sky Wolf City. Longao was strolling on the streets and looking around absent-mindedly. Big Brother Long, be careful. After hearing Bai Ling's reminder, Longao was very surprised. Bai Ling, what happened? Big Brother Long, someone has been locking onto your position. Try to sense the spatial ripples in the surroundings. And? With Longao's strength, it was impossible for him to sense the spatial ripples in the surroundings and could only rely on his innate ability. As expected. Just like what Bai Ling said, the spatial ripples in the surroundings did have some abnormalities. Who was it? To be able to lock onto his position, it was obvious who the other party was with such strength. Longao didn't dare to be careless and had his guard up. Right at this moment, the spatial ripples and powerful aura descended. The spatial ripples were forcefully ripped open and 4 figures walked out. East, south, west, and north. The 4 of them were Yang Yu, Yang Dingtian, Yang Qianer, and Zhao Yu. The 4 of them broke through the spatial ripples and came here mainly because of the blood pool. Otherwise, even Tong Tiandi and the others wouldn't be able to break through the spatial ripples, let alone the 4 of them. Longao, I really want to see how you are going to escape from my palm today. This time, Yang Yu didn't choose to launch a sneak attack because in her opinion, Longao was already a turtle in a jar. If Longao was still able to escape, then they could just go and die. Qianer? Ignoring Yang Yu and the others, Longao was very surprised. Why would Yang Qianer come here? Furthermore, the 4 of them were all Supreme Dao martial artists. Especially Yang Yu, who had reached the Supreme Dao. At this moment, Yang Qian had an ice-cold expression because Yang Yu had already brainwashed her. In other words, Yang Qianer didn't recognize anyone and was just like a killing tool. Yang Qianer didn't reply. Yang Ditian sneered and said coldly, Longao, I'll give you a chance. Hand over the god-punishing sword and I can leave your corpse intact. Otherwise, Yang Dingtian didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning behind his words was very clear. Longao's expression was very indifferent, but his heart was also very heavy. For divine Dao martial artists, not to mention 1 against 4, even if it was a one-on-one situation, it was impossible for him to be the other party's match. Longao had already attempted to enter the Dragon Seal's space. Without a doubt, they were unable to enter. Longao had already guessed that Yang Yu had come prepared this time. Otherwise, it was impossible for Yang Yu not to launch a sneak attack. They were in big trouble now. Godslayer sword. God-slaying sword? I'll give you a strand of hair, do you want it? Longao's meaning was already very clear. He did not put these 4 people in his eyes at all. If it were other people who were besieged by 4 Supreme Dao martial artists, not to mention ignoring them, it would already be very good if they were not scared to death. You are courting death. Without continuing with the nonsense, the 4 of them moved at the same time. They attacked from all 4 directions at the same time. Yang Yu and the others were very confident. With the 4 of them working together, it was almost a matter of minutes for them to kill Longao. As for the god-punishing mirror, as long as they killed Longao, it would also be a matter of minutes for them to take back the God-Slayer sword. It was 1 against 4. Longao didn't dare to choose to meet force with force. It was fine as long as they could leave smoothly. It was precisely because of this that Longao immediately released his innate ability, Dragon Roar. When the dragon roar echoed, the four of them suddenly realized that the flow of time around them had changed. Furthermore, their bodies had been forcefully locked. There was even a powerful force that was devouring their divine soul. What exactly was happening? In an instant, Yan Yu and the others already knew what was happening. Longao was a disciple of the Long family. It was very normal for him to have an innate ability. However, the three of them never expected that Longao's innate ability would actually be so powerful. Longao was looking for a breakthrough. Taking advantage of the 1 second when the four of them were locked down, Longao broke out of the encirclement. With his fastest speed, he rushed forward. Kill! Since things had already reached this point, Yan Yu naturally wouldn't let Longao go. Just like this, the four of them began to chase after Longao. Both sides, one in front and one behind, disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. There was no one around. The strength of both sides was too strong. Even an ordinary person would know what had happened. Just as both sides left, many heads popped out. Each of them swallowed their saliva fiercely. Such a terrifying aura was indeed a little terrifying. The people around understood the principle of being implicated. Longao. Long your sister. With a flip of his hand, 100 feet long sword she slashed out. Even the four of them didn't dare to face this move. After all, the sword she released by Longao was too terrifying. If the four of them were to face it head-on, they would probably be obliterated by the sword chi. Longao's strength was inferior to the four of them, but his speed wasn't inferior to them. Brother Long, my sister, and I will help you. Inject power? Of course, Longao knew the consequences of forcefully borrowing the power of Tu Jianling. Unless it was a last resort, he definitely wouldn't want to borrow the power of Tu Jianling. As if she knew what Longao was thinking, Bai Ling continued. Brother Long, my sister, and I will help you with our sword chi. Even if we can't kill the four of them, I believe it will be more than enough to force them away. So that's how it is. Before Longao was ready, two terrifying sword chi had already entered his body and flowed into his hands. The god's slaying sword appeared. Without any hesitation, Longao roared and slashed out fiercely. With the help of Xiling and Bai Ling, Longao's sword chi condensed from 100 feet to a few feet. The power had increased by 3 times. What kind of concept was this? There wasn't the slightest bit of sword chi flowing. Because of this, the four of them were shocked and didn't dare to continue chasing. Instead, they hurriedly dodged. Dodging didn't matter. Longao took advantage of this opportunity to speed up and escape. Feeling that there was no longer any spatial disturbance, Longao immediately used spatial teleportation to escape. After a few ups and downs, he disappeared without a trace. After successfully dodging the sword chi, Yan Yu and the other 3 looked at Longao's disappearing figure. Their faces were extremely gloomy and ugly. The 4 of them had joined forces to seal off the 4 directions of the north, south, east, and west, but Longao still managed to escape. They could really go and die. Grandfather. Slap! Before Yang Dingtian could react, a slap landed on his face. Yang Dingtian was a little dizzy and didn't know what he had done wrong. Zhao Yu didn't even dare to let out a fart. He stood at the side trembling with fear. Longao's departure this time, Yang Yu was definitely furious to the extreme. Provoking Yang Yu at this time was simply courting death. Humph, useless things. You can't even let Longao escape like this. If there's a next time, I'll kill you. F***CK, what does it have to do with us? Zhao Yu and Yang Dingtian were shocked. Who did the 2 of them offend? But the 2 of them didn't dare to say anything. P.S. The remaining 3 chapters will be delivered later. Thank you for your generous rewards. Tomorrow, I'll send you another 10 chapters. Thank you very much. Chapter 1100. Longao did not return to the Dragon Peak. Until now, Longao still did not know how Yang Yu was able to locate him so many times. If he returned to the Dragon Peak and Yang Yu arrived, how could the Dragon Sect defend against Yang Yu? At the peak of the barren mountain, Longao stood there quietly as the cold wind blew past. He heaved a sigh of relief as he recalled what had just happened. If it were not for Xiling and Bai Ling's help, he would have died in a 1 versus 4 situation. Brother Long, the opponent is very powerful. My sister and I can only treat the symptoms but not the root cause. Seeing Bai Ling appear beside him, Longao shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Bai Ling, do you have a way to avoid being located? It was not a good idea to continue like this. If Yang Yu's sneak attack succeeded, he would be in big trouble. He thought for a while. Sister, do you have a way? As soon as Bai Ling finished her words, Xiling appeared. Longao, if I'm not wrong, there must be a connection between you and this person. Otherwise, he would not be able to locate you and arrive here. The blood pool. Needless to say, Longao already knew that Yang Yu was able to locate him because of the blood pool. According to Long Fu, the Clear Sky sect had a remnant power of the blood pool. Since things had already come to this point, Longao did not hide anything anymore. He recounted the matter of the blood pool in full detail. Bai Ling and Xiling were stunned. The two obviously knew about the origin of the blood pool, but they did not point it out. Longao, there is no other way. If you can go to the Clear Sky sect and destroy the remnant power of the blood pool, then I can be sure that this person will not be able to locate you. Regarding the meaning of what Xiling said, Longao basically understood. Destroy the remnant power of the blood pool? However, Yang Yu must be looking for him all over the world. She could not wait to lock onto his location. If he went to the Supreme Sky sect at this time, wouldn't he be like a lamb in a tiger's den? Brother Long, what are you going to do? Let's head to the Clear Sky sect. Longao had already decided that this matter had to be resolved as soon as possible. Otherwise, trouble would come from afar in the future. No one knew when Yang Yu would lock onto his location. What if Yang Yu suddenly appeared while he was in the Dragon Sect? Wouldn't they be implicated? It was precisely because of this that Longao decided that no matter how dangerous the situation ahead was, he had to take the risk and head to the Supreme Sky Sect to destroy the remnant energy of the blood pool and resolve the problem once and for all. Brother Long. Before Bai Ling could say anything, Xiling had already pulled Bai Ling and disappeared into the God's Lair sword. The night passed in silence. The next morning, Longao still did not return to the Dragon Peak. Instead, he used spatial teleportation to rush to the Supreme Sky Sect at his fastest speed. Back thrust. Yang Yu and the other two would never have thought that the target they had been targeting would head to the Supreme Sky Sect, their headquarters. If Yang Yu and the other two knew about this, who knew if they would choose to believe it? As the saying went, the most dangerous place was also the safest place. Longao did not return to the Dragon Peak. Instead, he brought the news back to the Dragon Sect. The general meaning was that at this time, if there was nothing important, they should not act rashly. After receiving the news, Dugubai and Longing did not know what Longao meant. However, the two of them still followed Longao's instructions. Although Longing and Dugubai were the master and deputy master of the Dragon Sect, strictly speaking, the real boss of the Dragon Sect was still Longao. Both Longing and Dugubai had to step aside. Not only the two of them, but everyone else also understood this point. Supreme Sky Sect. The current Supreme Sky Sect was no longer the same as before. It was heavily guarded. No one could enter the Supreme Sky Sect without permission. With Longao's strength, it was easy for him to enter the Supreme Sky Sect. After entering the Supreme Sky Sect, Longao was almost certain that Yang Yu and the other three had not returned to the Supreme Sky Sect yet. This way, he could do his own things better. Longao had already been to the cave once. This time, it could be said that he was very familiar with the place. Inside the cave, there was a medium-sized blood pool in the middle of the cave. It was almost identical to the blood pool in the Dragon Seal space. However, the two blood pools were different. The blood pool in the Supreme Sky Sect was only the remnant energy of the blood pool. Long Fu, how should I destroy this blood pool? It was better to ask Long Fu about this matter. No matter what, the dragon seal space sealed the blood pool. Xiao Chen believed that Long Fu would have a way to deal with the blood pool. If even Long Fu could not do it, who could? Master, it is almost impossible to destroy the remnant energy of the blood pool. Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao cursed in his heart. If the remnant energy of the blood pool could not be destroyed, didn't that mean that Yan Yu could lock onto him at any time? If that was the case, then this matter was really troublesome. Not to mention his own safety, what about his family? Could it be that he would not see his family for the rest of his life? Master, there is only one way now, and that is to fight poison with poison. Borrow the energy of the blood pool in the dragon seal space and directly devour the remnant energy of the blood pool in front of you. There is no other way. Long Fu, how confident are you? 10. Damn, since it has already come to this, then what is there for me to worry about? Needless to say, Long Fu knew what to do and immediately started to act. According to Long Fu, it would take about a day for the dragon seal space's true body blood pool to devour the remnant energy of the blood pool in the cave. Longao stood guard beside the blood pool because he was not sure when Yang Yu and the other three would return. If they returned at this time, it would affect the absorption of the remnant energy of the blood pool. He hoped that Yang Yu and the other three would not return in time. Within the Clear Sky Sect, Yang Yu and the other three had successfully returned. Their faces were gloomy. This time, the four of them did not succeed in killing Longao. The four of them were extremely depressed. If this matter were to spread, they would be laughed at. From now on, the three of you will help me lock onto Longao. Next time, no matter what happens, I will not let Longao escape. If it was just Longao, Yan Yu might have given up. However, the problem now was that Longao had taken away the Clear Sky Sect's treasure, the god-slaying sword. Therefore, Yan Yu was so determined to lock onto Longao's location. Yan Yu, who had just stepped into the Clear Sky Sect, suddenly changed her expression. She said coldly, "To think that someone dares to mess with me. Let's go." Yan Yu did not expect that someone would dare to come to the Clear Sky Sect and enter the cave. Could it be for the blood pool? P.S. The remaining 2 chapters were updated after midnight and took an entire day to write. Xiao Jiu rested for a while and ate some instant noodles. I will continue writing later. Chapter 1101. Supreme Sky Sect. Inside the cave, Longao, who was guarding beside the blood pool, had a drastic change in expression as he cursed in his heart. He didn't dare to be careless and immediately entered the dragon seal space. Longao was confident that no matter how powerful Yan Yu and the others were, it was impossible for them to enter the dragon seal space or even sense the existence of the dragon seal space. When Longao's body disappeared, Yan Yu and the others had already entered the cave. "Grandfather, what happened?" Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu were very curious as they didn't know what was going on with their grandfather. There's someone. Zhao Yu and Yang Dingtian didn't dare to be careless and immediately began to search the cave. But after searching for a while, they still couldn't find the 5th person. Could Yang Yu have sensed wrongly? Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu didn't dare to speak as they stood by the side with fear and trepidation. Yan Yu stood in the cave and looked at the blood pool in front of her. Her face was extremely gloomy, and was as ugly as it could get. She clearly sensed that someone had entered the cave and moved the blood pool. But at this moment, there was no movement and no one. Could she have sensed wrongly? Something isn't right. Just as Yan Yu was about to enter the blood pool, the situation suddenly changed. The blood pool that didn't have any movement earlier suddenly had blood bubbles rolling like boiling water. What exactly happened? "May I know who you are?" "Yan Yu, didn't you always want to find me?" "Longao?" Hearing Longao's voice, Yan Yu and the others were astonished as they could only hear the voice and couldn't see the person. How did he do it? Inside the dragon seal space. Longao sneered. No matter what, he definitely wouldn't go out. If he couldn't return, wouldn't it be like trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it? Longao, if you have the ability, come out. Why are you sneaking around? Yan Yu couldn't understand why Longao would dare to appear here and only hear the voice but not see the person. Yan Yu, stop wasting time here. I will let you die without a burial ground later. The more mysterious Longao was, the more uncertain Yan Yu was. Could it be that Longao was confident in killing her? Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu looked at each other. They could see the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. The remnants of the blood pool were completely devoured right under Yan Yu's nose. Yan Yu was powerless to do anything about it. One could only imagine how she felt. Longao, if you have the ability, then come out. The blood pool was the foundation of the Supreme Sky Sect. Yan Yu was not a fool. She knew that without the blood pool, not to mention the Supreme Sky Sect's strength, the Supreme Sky Sect would lose the chance to dominate the Tianwu continent. Yan Yu wished she could skin Longao alive, chop him up and feed him to the dogs. However, Longao did not appear from the beginning to the end. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. Inside the Dragon Seal spatial zone, Longao let out a breath of relief after completely devouring the remaining energy of the blood pool. Without the help of the blood pool, it was impossible for Yan Yu to continue to lock onto him. As for dealing with Yan Yu, Longao had brought 10 Divine Dragon Corps slaves with him. It was impossible to kill Yan Yu, but it was more than enough to kill the others. Eliminate the Supreme Sky Sect. Now that things had developed to this stage, there was no other way but to eliminate the Supreme Sky Sect. It was still the same saying. If you don't remove the roots, it will grow again. Yan Yu, didn't you want to fight with me? Do you dare? Yan Yu was trying to use reverse psychology to lure Longao out. Otherwise, if Longao didn't come out for the rest of his life, he wouldn't be able to kill Longao no matter how powerful he was. Furthermore, it was unknown what method Longao used to make the blood pool vanish. Even if it was for the blood pool and the God-punishing mirror, he had to find Longao. Yan Yu, if you are capable, come with me alone. Longao borrowed the puppet and left the cave with his aura. Yan Yu told him to stay behind and wait for her. Immediately after, she followed the aura and chased after him. Endless anger turned into endless killing aura and surged out. After Yang Yu left, there were only 3 people left in the cave. Yang Dingtian, Yang Qianer, and Zhao Yu. Longao. When they saw Longao suddenly appearing in front of them, both Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu had an extremely gloomy expression. They had already guessed what Longao was trying to do. It was to lure the tiger away from the mountain. They looked at each other and saw a trace of contempt in each other's eyes. So what if Longao was trying to lure the tiger away from the mountain? In the end, Longao was just a puny arch martial artist. In front of them, Longao was just like an ant. Longao, with just you? Death is not worth pitying. Longao shook his head helplessly. He looked at the 2 people in front of him as though he was looking at 2 pitiful worms. Could Longao really have some trump cards? Zhao Yu, kill him for me! F***ck Zhao Yu cursed in his heart, and looked at Yang Dingtian with disdain. But with their status and strength, even if Zhao Yu was unwilling, he could only brace himself and do it. 2 supreme Dao martial artists were afraid of a single arch martial artist. If such a matter was spread out, no one would believe it. No matter what, the gap between a arch martial artist and a supreme Dao martial artist was obvious. Zhao Yu took a big step forward and rushed forward. Before he arrived, his murderous aura had already arrived. Zhao Yu didn't want to waste any time. At this moment, a dragon's roar rang out. Zhao Yu left quickly, but returned even faster. Furthermore, he was sent flying backwards, crashing heavily onto the ground. His breathing was shallow, and his breathing was shallow. His eyes closed, and his legs kicked out. Zhao Yu was instantly killed. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Yang Ditian swallowed his saliva as though he had seen a ghost. A giant divine dragon appeared in the cave. It wasn't just one divine dragon, there were a total of 10 divine dragons that occupied the entire cave. When he sensed the powerful dragon aura emitted from the 10 divine dragons, Yang Ditian finally knew why Longao was so confident. It turned out that he had the assistance of the 10 divine dragons. Yang Dingtian couldn't figure out where Longao found the 10 divine dragons. After all, he knew clearly what the 10 divine dragons meant. Longao. Longao waved his hand and didn't give Yang Dingtian any chance to talk nonsense. He smiled and said, Yang Dingtian, it's useless to be afraid. But I can give you a chance. Kill yourself here and I will leave your corpse intact. Longao took a glance at Yang Qian'er beside him and sighed deeply in his heart. No matter what, he wouldn't hurt Yang Qian'er. After all, Yang Qian'er was the most innocent from the beginning to the end. Author's note: Chapter 14 has been delivered. Xiao Jiu will try to hurry up with the last chapter. I hope everyone will vote for Longao. Thank you. Chapter 1102. Longao, don't be too arrogant. He didn't want to speak any more nonsense. He used the puppets and she presence to lure Yang Yu away. No one knew when Yang Yu would return. 10 divine dragon corpse slaves swarmed over and didn't give Yang Dingtian any chance to escape. They instantly drowned him. After settling Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu, Longao took a deep look at Yang Qian'er. The grudges between you and me shall be written off. Longao didn't kill Yang Qian'er. No matter what, Yang Qian'er had helped him before. Furthermore, Yang Qian'er didn't have a choice in this moment. Longao left the cave. A few minutes later, Yang Yu returned. Looking at the 2 corpses on the ground, Yang Yu already knew what had happened. Longao had played a dirty trick on her and lured her away so that he could kill Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu. How did Longao do it? Yang Yu might not know how Longao killed the 2 of them, but she could guess that Longao didn't have the confidence to deal with her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lured her away. The god-punishing sword was lost. The blood pool had vanished. Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu were dead. All of this was thanks to Longao. Originally, the Supreme Sky Sect had a chance to rise, but now, everything was stifled. Longao, no matter where you go, I will tear you into pieces. Longao didn't leave the Supreme Sky Sect. Longao wasn't a fool. So what if he killed Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu? After all, his biggest threat was Yang Yu. As long as Yang Yu didn't die, she would always be a threat. That was the case. Longao didn't leave the Supreme Sky Sect. No matter what, he had to kill Yang Yu and eliminate all future troubles. Yang Yu was a supreme god Dao martial artist. Longao knew clearly that he couldn't kill Yang Yu by himself even with the help of 10 divine dragon corpse slaves. What should he do? Outer Sea. Crystal Palace at the bottom of the sea. Long Batian's body was covered in blood, and he was on the verge of collapsing. Long Batian heaved a sigh of relief when he arrived at the Crystal Palace. What happened to you? At this point, Master God Diviner appeared. Shocked to see Long Batian in such a state, he quickly helped him into the Crystal Palace. The God Diviner was extremely clear about Long Batian's power. In the entire martial heaven continent, there was probably no one who could injure him. So who could it be? Master Clairvoyant, we're in big trouble now. Half an hour passed. After hearing this, Master God Diviner's expression turned unsightly. Everything was fine, but you just had to cause trouble. Let's see how you're going to deal with this. Rolling his eyes, Long Batian said, Now is not the time to talk about this. Tell me, what should we do now? Long Batian seemed to be very anxious. After all, the situation was urgent. What else can we do? We can only find the heavenly Tao and sit down together to see what we should do. At this point, Long Batian and Master God Diviner rose to their feet and left the Crystal Palace, flying off into the distance. The Clear Sky Sect, in a rather hidden cave. Longao had been thinking of all kinds of methods to kill Yan Yu. However, no matter how he thought about it, he still couldn't think of a way to kill her. Longao was a bit stubborn. After all, the remnant energy of the blood pool had been devoured. Even if he left now, Yan Yu wouldn't be able to use the remnant energy of the blood pool to lock onto his position. In Longao's view, as long as Yan Yu didn't die, she would always be a huge problem for him. It was still the same saying. If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it would grow again when the spring breeze blew. In the Sword Sect. Patriarch, the news has been confirmed. Longao entered the forbidden area of the Long clan, the origin of evil. He entered but did not come out. Yi Xian also didn't quite believe it. However, the truth was right in front of him. He had no choice but to believe it. He let out a deep sigh. For Longao to be able to meet the old ancestor, it already shows Longao's talent and potential. If you say that Longao has already fallen, I will absolutely not believe it. Master, this news shouldn't be false. Great Elder, I'll have to trouble you to personally make a trip to the Long clan. I believe that you should know that the Long clan's news might not be true due to the power struggle. Yi Xian was a bit surprised. He couldn't figure out why the master would treat Longao like this. Wasn't he a bit too concerned? The Martial Artists Alliance also received the news. Shanghai Ye was very happy. Needless to say, Hades found Tong Tiandi and said straightforwardly, Alliance Master, I hope that the news of Longao's death can be kept from Yuyin. Otherwise, I'm worried about Yuyin. Although Hades didn't finish his sentence, the meaning behind his words was very clear. Yuyin couldn't know about this. With the relationship between Yuyin and Longao, the consequences would be unimaginable if Yuyin knew about it. Very few people know about this. I'll keep the news a secret. However, I still don't believe that Longao has died. Master, what are you going to do? Send someone to the Long family. Longao, who was in the Clear Sky sect, didn't expect that many people would go to the Long family because of his failure to leave the origin of evil. If news of this spread, no one would believe it. At this moment, Longao was still in the Clear Sky sect. He was thinking of all kinds of ways to kill Yan Yu and get rid of the problem once and for all. Xiling, is there any way to kill a supreme down martial artist? Left with no choice, Longao could only ask Violet Spirit. That was because it was still the same. Just by relying on his own strength, even with the addition of 10 corpse slaves, it was still impossible to kill Yan Yu. The difference in cultivation realm was very difficult to make up for with other things. Xiling and Bailing appeared and shook their heads. Xiling said helplessly, Longao, you should know what the difference in cultivation level means. You can't do it, and neither can my sister. If you want to kill Yan Yu, you have to borrow the power of heaven and earth. What do you mean? Longao, no matter how powerful a martial artist is, even the heavenly Tao can't compete with the power of heaven and earth. Therefore, we can borrow the power of heaven and earth to kill Yan Yu. Aren't you a formation master? Yemo nodded. You can set up a formation. When the time comes, my sister and I will think of a way to attract the 9 heavens' divine thunder for you. I want to see how Yan Yu can withstand it. So that's how it is. Longao had used this trick before. Long Fu had also borrowed the power of heaven and earth to help Longao fight against many powerful martial artists. Longao didn't expect that Xiling would use the same trick. Xiling, what kind of formation should I set up? With Longao's current level of formation skills, he could set up hundreds of formations. Which one should he choose? Author's note: 15 chapters have been delivered. 10 chapters will continue tomorrow. Mainly to thank Brother Xiang for his generous gifts. I'm a little tired today, so I'll sleep in tomorrow. Xiaojiu, try to wake up early. Hope everyone can forgive me. Chapter 1103. The Million Ancestral Swords Formation. Brother Long, with me as the eye of the formation, we can easily kill Yan Yu with the power of heaven and earth. Hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao was shocked. Before Longao could speak, Xiling snorted. Bai Ling, do you want to die? Xiling, what's going on? Although Longao didn't know what the consequences would be, with Bai Ling as the eye of the formation, it would definitely be bad for Bai Ling, otherwise Xiling wouldn't be so nervous. The power of heaven and earth isn't a joke. If we're not careful, we'll disappear. Bai Ling, you can't do this! Longao wanted to kill Yan Yu, but if it was at the cost of Bai Ling's life, he would rather die than agree. Longao, with my sister and I as the eye of the formation, I believe we can resist the power of heaven and earth. Longao wanted to say something, but Xiling and Bai Ling had already made up their minds. In the following days, Longao used all his strength to set up the Million Ancestral Swords formation. With the understanding of the sword principle from last time, Longao could set it up with ease. If it was just the Million Ancestral Swords formation, it would be impossible to kill Yan Yu. After all, the power of heaven and earth couldn't be triggered easily. However, the situation was completely different now. With Bai Ling and Xiling as the eye of the formation, the power of the Million Ancestral Swords formation skyrocketed. The chances of triggering the power of heaven and earth also increased. 3 days later. Longao, you really don't know what's good for you. How dare you come back? Looking at Longao, who suddenly appeared in front of her, Yan Yu was a little surprised. However, she was mostly surprised. Without the blood pool, she couldn't lock onto Longao's position. It was easier said than done to find a person in a sea of people. Since she offered herself to him, it would be a waste not to take it. However, Longao smiled and extended his finger, and shook it gently. Yan Yu, I believe you have already seen the outcome of Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu. I can guarantee you that your outcome will be the same as theirs. His expression froze. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for Longao to kill Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu with his strength. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. They were not on the same level at all. And the result? In just a few minutes, Longao had defeated Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu. What kind of concept was this? Sensing back and forth, Yan Yu was almost certain that Longao was absolutely not a supreme Dao martial artist. Since that was the case, how did he kill 2 supreme Dao martial artists? The more confident Longao was, the more uncertain Yan Yu felt. Could it be that Longao really had the ability to deal with him? Yan Yu still couldn't believe it. However, Longao had returned. If he didn't have full confidence, would Longao do this? Are you scared? Ha ha ha, why would I be scared? After laughing, Yan Yu pointed to the 9 heavens and suddenly said, Longao, clear heaven and earth. Today, I will let you witness the prowess of the blood pool clone. Before Yan Yu could make a move, Longao had already turned and left. Now that things had reached this stage, would Yan Yu let Longao off so easily? Yan Yu gave chase. The place where Longao set up the sect origin swords array was at the middle of the mountain of the Supreme Sky sect. After entering the array, Longao didn't continue to run. He turned and looked at Yan Yu, who had also stopped. Longao, aren't you running? If I leave, who will kill you? Kill me? Looking at the young man in front of him, Yan Yu really wanted to laugh. However, in the next moment, Yan Yu already knew what was going on. He said in surprise, So you are an array master. However, Longao, the gap between us is too big. Even if it is an array, what can you do to me? As a supreme Dao martial artist, Yan Yu was full of confidence. Not to mention a small great emperor realm martial artist, even if there was a supreme Dao martial artist here, he could kill them instantly. As for the array, he didn't care about it at all. The moment Longao stepped into the array, he had already activated it. With Bai Ling and Xiling as the eye of the array, the sect origin swords array was surrounded by countless sword chi, constantly attacking Yan Yu. The power of the sword chi was very strong. An ordinary Supreme Down martial artist wouldn't be able to last more than 3 minutes in the array. Ha ha, Longao, you have overestimated yourself. Blood Pool Clone. With a loud roar, Yan Yu's body suddenly released a terrifying bloody aura. In the blink of an eye, Yan Yu's entire body had turned blood red, as if he had entered a vat of dye. Longao had never expected that Yan Yu's strength would soar in an instant. Xiling and Bai Ling didn't dare to be careless. They immediately used the array to activate the power of heaven and earth. Rumble, rumble. Dark clouds suddenly covered the sky above the clear sky sect. With a loud crack, a clap of thunder resounded through the sky and earth. Longao was also shocked. He was fully aware of the array that he had set up. It seemed that Xiling and Bai Ling's strength was above his estimation. It was hard to imagine how powerful Xiling and Bai Ling's peak original body would be. The 9 heavens divine thunder and countless sword chi attacked Yan Yu at the same time. Yan Yu was as steady as Mount Tai. He withstood the attacks of the heavenly thunder and sword chi. Seeing this, Longao was dumbfounded. Yan Yu's physical defense was too abnormal. Master, you have to leave quickly. I didn't expect that this person had already absorbed the remaining power of the blood pool. He is no longer Yan Yu, but a blood pool clone. You can't compete with him in terms of defense or strength. Hearing Long Fu's anxious voice, Longao knew what had happened. Since that was the case, he didn't dare to stay any longer. He turned around and left. However, before he left, he forcefully kept Bai Ling and Xiling into the God-Slayer sword. Yan Yu's strength was too terrifying. If Xiling and Bai Ling were at their peak, of course, they could ignore Yan Yu. Unfortunately, Xiling and Bai Ling could only be devoured by Yan Yu in their current condition. The consequences would be unimaginable. Just as Longao was about to use spatial teleportation to leave, he suddenly felt a terrifying bloody aura directly enveloping him. Before he could react, his entire body was pulled up from the ground. Like a kite with a broken string, he was ruthlessly thrown out. With the sacred body of desolation, Longao was only seriously injured. He didn't die. If it were anyone else, that would be enough to kill them. Because of this, Yan Yu saw that Longao didn't die. His face was a little pale and he continued to attack. He stood up with difficulty. At this moment, Longao felt that his internal organs had been displaced. He endured the pain in his body and didn't dare to stay any longer. He took a big step forward and teleported away. Longao, weren't you very arrogant just now? Fight me if you have the ability. Ha ha. Yan Yu laughed crazily. In the end, he still lost track of Longao. P.S. I just woke up and started writing immediately. Brothers, vote for Longao with your monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. Chapter 1104. In the Dragon Seal Space. Longao sat on the ground, paralyzed. Thinking about it scared him. Until now, Longao did not expect Yan Yu to be so powerful. Blood Pool Clone. Long Fu, what's the Blood Pool Clone? Long Fu's face was solemn. He said helplessly, the Blood Pool Clone is a gathering of the Blood Pool's power. It's very powerful. Unless we use the Blood Pool to destroy it, otherwise. At this point, Long Fu suddenly paused. Long Fu, what's wrong? Master, the God-killing sword and the blood pool are mutually exclusive. It's hard to believe that we can use the blood pool to destroy Yan Yu, but we can use the God-killing sword. God-killing sword? Long Fu then told Longao how to deal with Yan Yu. Longao did not go out. He hid in the Dragon Seal space to recover. 2 days later. Xiling, Bai Ling, are you okay? Even with the help of the million ancestral swords array set up by Xiling and Bai Ling and the power of heaven and earth, they could not defeat Yan Yu. Xiling and Bai Ling shook their heads to show that they were fine. Longao, Yan Yu's power is beyond our imagination. You should give up for now and try again in the future when you have the chance. Regarding Xiling's meaning, Longao knew it clearly. Longao did not hide anything from Xiling and Bailing. He told them what he was going to do next. Just as Longao was about to attack Yang Yu, the entire Clear Sky sect exploded. In the blink of an eye, the Clear Sky sect was in ruins. Longao stood in front of the ruins. He did not know what had happened. Had Yang Yu died? Longao, Xiling, Bailing, and Long Fu couldn't sense Yang Yu's aura. This meant that Yang Yu had either died or left the Clear Sky sect. Since things had come to this point, Longao could only choose to leave. He had a feeling that Yang Yu was not dead. As for why the Supreme Sky sect suddenly turned into ruins, there seemed to be something fishy going on. The Supreme Sky sect suddenly turned into ruins. Longao did not continue to stay in the Supreme Sky sect. Dragon Peak. After Longao returned to the Dragon sect, he did not say anything. Neither Goodbye nor Longing dared to ask. Big brother, how is the Dragon sect? Seventh brother, it's about time. As long as we take care of the Heavenly Wolf gang, our Dragon sect will be the absolute ruler of the area within 100 miles. The Heavenly Wolf gang was a fourth-rate force, and the gang leader was a titled Great Emperor. If Shaoqin did not use the Divine Dragon Corpse slave, it would be impossible to kill the Heavenly Wolf gang's gang leader. It was still that sentence, unless there was no other choice. Longao absolutely would not utilize the Divine Dragon Corpse slave. If the dragon race found out about the Divine Dragon Corpse slave, the consequences would be unimaginable. Seventh brother, I know what you mean. However, we don't have much time. Under such circumstances, we can only use the Divine Dragon Corpse slave. Seeing Longao pondering with his head lowered, Longing continued. Seventh brother, I will handle this matter carefully. I will not leave any problems behind. Shaoqin sighed deeply in his heart. The master of the Dragon sect was his big brother. Longao knew that if his big brother asked him about everything, how could he be the master? Not to mention, since his big brother had already said so, Shaoqin could not go back on his words. Big brother, you are already the master of the Dragon sect. As long as it is not a matter of life and death for the Dragon sect, you can make all the decisions. After I finish setting up all the formations, I will leave the Dragon sect. From today onwards, the Dragon sect will be in your hands. Seventh brother, you are leaving? He was not surprised at all. Longing was very clear about his identity. If it were not for his seventh brother, he would be nothing as the sect master of the Dragon sect. Seventh brother, the Tianwu continent is filled with danger. You have already fallen. If you leave rashly, I am afraid that many people will choose to deal with you. How could Longao not know what his big brother meant? Big brother, I have many things to do. I will say the same thing again. Step by step. Since the conversation had already reached this point, Longing could only nod and express agreement. Next, Longing and Dugabai personally took action. They led the two Divine Dragon Corps slaves to the Heavenly Wolf gang. As for Longao, he continued to set up the formations. After all, the formations were very important to the Dragon sect after he left. The Heavenly Wolf gang was a unique existence within 100 miles. No one dared to provoke the Heavenly Wolf gang. However, the Heavenly Wolf gang's reputation was not good. Although everyone was angry, they did not dare to say anything. Especially the people of Heavenly Wolf City, they hated the Heavenly Wolf gang. In one night, the Heavenly Wolf gang was destroyed. It was as if they had disappeared from the face of the earth. The people of Heavenly Wolf City were all talking about the destruction of the Heavenly Wolf gang. Before the people of Heavenly Wolf City could react, a sect called the Dragon sect silently entered Heavenly Wolf City. Many people were unconvinced. They had sent the Heavenly Wolf gang away with great difficulty. How many people would be willing to accept a new Dragon sect? However, Longing did not give them a chance. In a short day, he had completely taken care of Heavenly Wolf City. It had to be said that Longing and Dugabai were born leaders. In a short month, the Dragon sect was managed in an orderly manner by the two of them. Regarding the two people's management ability, Longao saw it in his eyes and could be considered to be relieved. After a month of setting up the array, all of the array formations were finally completed. Big brother Dugu, I am preparing to leave the sect tomorrow. I will leave the dragon sect to you. The two of them already knew that Longao had made up his mind. Therefore, the two of them did not try to persuade him in the slightest. They only said a few words to be careful. The next morning, Longao had already left the dragon sect. Longao had changed his appearance. Even if someone familiar saw him, they might not be able to recognize him. Longao wanted to use this opportunity to complete all the remaining matters. Among all the matters, the most important was to increase his strength. Without great strength, it would be difficult to move around in the Tianwu continent. Purple-grade Great Emperor Realm. Longao was preparing to break through from the purple-grade Great Emperor Realm to the black-grade Great Emperor Realm as soon as possible. The Tianwu continent was divided into 10 factions. The Long family, the Alchemy Guild, the Martial Artists Alliance, the Wanshou sect, the Heaven and Earth sect, the Five Elements sect, the Wanzhan School, the Sword sect, the Purple Thunder sect, and the Black Heaven sect. Among the 10 factions, Longao finally chose the Five Elements sect. According to Xiling, if he wanted to continue cultivating the Five Elements heaven-devouring incantation, he had to go to the Five Elements sect and learn their martial techniques. He hoped to have a breakthrough. As for the heavenly devouring incantation, he had already learned it. It was only a matter of time before he reached the peak. 2 primal chaos stone tablets, 2 peerless martial techniques. That was why Longao decided to go to the Five Elements sect to see if it could help him. Chapter 1105. The Tianwu continent was divided into 10 factions. The sect master of the Five Elements sect, Sima Tu, was one of the strongest experts in the Tianwu continent. The Five Elements sect was divided into 5 branches: the Metal Element sect, the Wood Element sect, the Water Element sect, the Fire Element sect, and the Earth Element sect. Each of the 5 branches had their own sect master, who was also the deputy sect master of the Five Elements sect. The Five Elements sect was different from the other superpowers. Other than the 5 branches, there were no other branches in the Five Elements sect. For example, the Martial Artists Alliance had countless branches, the Sword sect, and the Wanzhan School. After 10 days of traveling, Longao finally arrived at the territory of the Five Elements sect. As soon as he stepped into the Five Elements city, Longao met a familiar face. Shirpatian? Previously at the Heavenly Path Mountain, Shirpatian was besieged by hundreds of divine beasts. It seemed that Shirpotian's strength was not simple. Even so, he could easily leave the Heavenly Path Mountain. Shirpatian was a disciple of the Wanshou sect. Why would he appear in the Five Elements city? Under Longao's curiosity, he quietly followed. Shirpatian was a supreme Tao Peak martial artist. He was only one step away from the Nirvana realm. Whether it was his strength or speed, they were all there. If it was an ordinary person, it would be impossible to follow Shirpatian. However, Longao was different. With the help of spatial teleportation, Longao and Shirpatian always maintained a certain distance. No one would believe that a purple-grade Great Emperor martial artist could follow a supreme Tao Peak martial artist silently. From the beginning to the end, Shirpatian did not find any trace of Longao. The two of them, one in front and one behind, slowly disappeared at the end of the street. The Five Elements city was as prosperous as the Dragon City, Emperor City, and other super cities. In the Five Elements city, there were not only Five Elements disciples, but also people from other places and forces. As for the Five Elements sect's disciples, they would usually choose a type of martial skill to cultivate. For example, Wood Element martial skill, Fire Element martial skill, Water Element martial skill, Metal Element martial skill, and Earth Element martial skill. Some talented disciples could not only cultivate one elemental cultivation technique and martial skills, but also multiple elemental cultivation techniques and martial skills at the same time. There were even some who could cultivate 4 different elemental cultivation techniques and martial skills at the same time. Since ancient times, there was only one person who could cultivate 5 different elemental cultivation techniques and martial skills at the same time. 5 elements reincarnation, the 5 elements power. It was said that those who could cultivate the power of the 5 elements at the same time could become the strongest person in the world. The founder of the 5 elements sect cultivated the power of the 5 elements, and created the 5 elements sect. Shirpatian entered a very secluded courtyard, but Longao did not follow. "Brother Long, what do you want to know?" Nodding ding long masters Longao, long of long sect. Of mo long 5 dragon sects. Long 2 of 5 martial sects Sect long sect was. Long sect. 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 Sect was sect. Anyway, he had nothing to do. Maybe something would be beneficial to him. Opportunities were like this. If you were to wait for an opportunity to find you, there were only 3 words: slowly wait. Therefore, grab hold of any opportunity. "Brother Long, big sister has a way." "Xiling?" Before Longao could say anything, Xiling said, "Why should I help him?" Before Longao could react, Xiling said, "Longao, release your soul." A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. Xiling had caused Longao to be at a loss of what to do. She had just said that she would not help him, and in the blink of an eye, she had asked him to release his soul. He did not need to guess what Xiling wanted to do. Longao didn't say anything and released his spiritual energy. Before Longao could figure out what Xiling wanted to do, his soul was enveloped by a strange sword aura and shot into the courtyard. In the courtyard. "Young master, everything is ready. When the time is right, we can start." Shirpatian nodded with satisfaction and said, "How is the 5 elements sect?" "I don't know about the 5 elements sect. Young master, I have investigated the matter of Tiandao Mountain. The person who attacked you was your second uncle." "Second uncle?" Hearing his second uncle, Shirpotian's face instantly became gloomy because he had already guessed that the sneak attack of Tiandao Mountain was arranged by his second uncle. After all, other than his second uncle, who could have such a powerful ability to mobilize people? In the air, Longao's soul was enveloped by the sword aura. Even Shirpatian could not find it, which made Longao very surprised. It seemed that Xiling was not only powerful, but also had some powerful magic. Even a supreme Dao warrior could not find it. "Young master?" Longao never thought that Shirpatian was the young master of the Wanshou sect. No wonder he could have such a powerful strength at such a young age. It turned out that he had such an identity. In this world, having talent didn't necessarily mean one could become a master. Having talent, one needed a good environment, and focused on cultivation. Only then could one achieve such success. Shirpotian's talent alone, without the full support of the Wanshou sect, could he have become a supreme divine Dao cultivator at his age? The answer was obvious. After listening to the conversation between the two of them, Longao had almost guessed that Shirpatian came to the 5 elements sect this time for an important matter. As for the ambush of the Tiandao Mountain, Longao had also heard a hint of meaning. The person who wanted to kill Shirpatian was Shirpotian's second uncle. If he hadn't appeared in time, Yuan and Ling would have been killed. "Who is it?" Seeing that Shirpatian seemed to have found him, Longao was very surprised, but he did not move, because Shirpatian looked around with a puzzled expression. Seeing this situation, Longao could almost be sure that Shirpatian only sensed a trace of his aura, but did not feel his existence. Otherwise, he would not have looked around. "Young master, what's wrong?" With a puzzled face, Shirpatian looked around and said, "I just sensed that someone was around. Could it be that I was wrong?" Waving his hand, Shirpatian said helplessly, Go, according to our previous plan, remember, don't let the Five Elements sect know. Yes, young master. After the servant left, Sherpatian stood up, sighed and said to himself, Second uncle, you were the one who was heartless first. Don't blame me for being unjust. I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. You and the Five Elements sect, humph. So that was it. Listening to Sherpotian's words, Longao finally knew why Sherpatian came to the Five Elements sect this time. In the end, the grudge between Sherpatian and his second uncle had nothing to do with him. It seemed that he had followed Sherpatian for nothing. Just when Longao was about to leave, a burst of laughter came. Chapter 1106. Loud laughter rang out. A middle-aged man walked into the courtyard. Sherpotian's expression changed slightly when he saw the middle-aged man. He smiled and said, Master Sima, why are you here? Sima too, the sect master of the Five Elements sect. Sherpatian wasn't surprised at all. No matter what, this was the Five Elements city, the headquarters of the Five Elements sect. As the young master of the Thousand Beasts sect, it would be strange if he didn't get discovered by the Five Elements sect. Patian, why didn't you come to the Five Elements sect? You're treating me like an outsider. Sima too said casually, not like a sect master at all. Sherpatian couldn't sense Longao's aura, but that didn't mean Sima too couldn't. However, Sima too acted as if nothing had happened and didn't say a word. Master Sima, I'm just here to take a look. He waved his hand. Before Sherpatian could speak, Sima too continued. Patian, I already know everything about you and your second uncle. This time, Sherpatian was truly shocked to the extreme. Sima too stopped laughing and sat down when he saw Sherpatian didn't speak. Patian, I also know that your second uncle is colluding with the sect leader of the Metal Element sect. However, this is still the Five Element sect. If you attack here, you're looking down on the Five Element sect. Uncle Sima, since things have come to this point, I won't hide it anymore. The grudge between me and my second uncle must be settled. In the Thousand Beasts sect, second uncle didn't dare to do anything, so he could only collude with the Metal Element sect master to deal with me. Sima too didn't say anything. Uncle Sima, if it were you, what would you do? Sima too knew things were bad when he heard Sherpatian call him uncle. Sherpotian's intention was very clear. He wanted to use his father's relationship to settle this matter. Sima too could ignore Sherpatian, but how could he not respect the Thousand Beasts sect master? Patian, I'll settle this. Don't continue. Uncle Sima. Waving his hand, Sima too's face darkened. He said in a deep voice, From now on, the leader of the Metal Element sect will not collude with your second uncle. As for the grudge between you and your second uncle, forgive me for being powerless. Sherpatian knew very well that if he continued like this, not only would Sima too not give him any face, but he would also not give his father any face. He stood up. Sherpatian didn't say anything more. He turned around and left. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared without a trace. Who exactly are you? Now that things had come to this, Longao did not continue to hide. His soul returned to his body and entered the courtyard. Sir? Black Wolf. Black Wolf? Sima too, the sect master of the Five Elements sect, was unfamiliar with the name Black Wolf. No matter how he thought about it, he could not recall who the Black Wolf was. With Sima too's strength, he could already sense Longao's strength. Purple-grade Great Emperor realm? Even Sherpatian could not sense such strength. This in itself showed that the young man in front of him was not simple. Sima too smiled and said, Please sit. Thank you, sect leader Sima. Longao was not polite at all and directly sat down opposite Sima Tuesday. If other people knew about this, they would probably scold him. Longao was simply acting recklessly. Black Wolf, you know Sherpatian? Longao nodded, then shook his head. He didn't tell the truth and said, To be honest, Sherpatian and I have met once. We can be considered friends, but also enemies. Our relationship is unclear. This time, when I entered the Five Elements city, I met Sherpatian. So, I came to see what Sherpatian wants. I don't know what happened just now, and I don't want to know. Of course, Longao knew clearly that the Five Elements sect had 5 branches. Once the matter of Sherpatian's second uncle colluding with the Gold Element sect's sect master was spread out, where would the Five Elements sect's face go? Longao did not want to cause any trouble for himself. He already had enough enemies. Unless it was a last resort, he did not want to provoke the Five Elements sect. No matter what, the Five Elements sect was one of the 10 forces. Whether it was in terms of strength or background, they were all there. Not to mention, Longao knew very well that the Five Elements sect was different from other superpowers. Whether it was the Long family, the Sword sect, or the Martial Artists Alliance, they all had help. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble. Smart. Black Wolf, I don't want to know about your relationship with Sherpatian. I just want to ask, why did you come to my Five Elements city? Longao was very afraid of the sect master of the Five Elements sect in front of him. If there were no accidents, Sima Tu's strength should have already broken through the Nirvana realm. He was a super-existence on the same level as Long Di Tian, Tong Tiandi, and Muronguena. Once he angered Sima Tu, it would be a big problem if he wanted to leave the Five Elements city smoothly. To be honest, I inadvertently cultivated a metal element cultivation method, but I still can't grasp the main point. Rumor has it that the Five Elements sect is the ancestor of the Five Elements force. If I can find a Five Elements expert to verify the Five Elements Tao and cultivate the Five Elements cultivation method and martial skills, I believe it will be of great help to my cultivation. Regarding this point, Longao did not hide it at all. Sima Tu was a little surprised. He nodded and said with a smile, "Very good, Black Wolf. If you want to verify your Five Elements Tao, you can't just challenge a Five Elements expert or cultivate the Five Elements cultivation method and martial skills. Sect Master, please enlighten me." In front of the Five Elements sect, there are 5 Five Elements stone steels. You can enter and verify your Five Elements sensing ability. If you can trigger even one of the Five Elements stone steels, you can become a core disciple of the Five Elements sect. At that time, when you enter the Five Elements sect, it will be of great help to your Five Elements Tao. Longao was not stupid. He knew what Sima Tu meant. They wouldn't help him for nothing, and they wouldn't let him enter the Five Elements sect for nothing. Although he didn't know what the Five Elements stone tablet was, Longao was very clear that it wouldn't be an easy thing to trigger the 5 sides of the Five Elements stone tablet. Longao did not want to enter the Five Elements sect, nor did he want to become a disciple of the Five Elements sect. He did not want to have anything to do with the Five Elements sect. However, the main purpose of entering the Five Elements city this time was to verify his knowledge of the Five Elements heaven-devouring incantation and comprehend it. Since that was the case, he had to think of all kinds of methods to verify his Five Elements heaven-devouring incantation. Black Wolf, I have already said so much. It is up to you whether you want to go or not. Sima Tu stood up and disappeared from the courtyard. From the beginning to the end, Sima Tu did not put Longao in his eyes. However, Longao's gloomy aura had surprised the sect leader of the Five Elements sect. Otherwise, with Sima Tu's status, he would not even look at Longao. Looking at Sima Tu, who had already disappeared, Longao fell into deep thought. He did not know whether he should go or not. From the beginning to the end, he had never thought of entering the Five Elements sect. Once he entered and became a disciple of the Five Elements sect, regardless of whether he was willing or not, trouble would come endlessly. This was a chance. The Five Elements heaven-devouring incantation was a super martial skill that he had sensed from the Five Elements primal chaos stone steels. Longao would definitely not be willing to waste it. Otherwise, he would not have come to the Five Elements city to verify his Five Elements Tao and cultivate the Five Elements heaven-devouring incantation. Go. In the end, Longao decided to go to the Five Elements sect and try the Five Elements stone steels that Sima Tu had mentioned. He wanted to see if he could activate the Five Elements stone steels. If he entered the Five Elements sect, then he would find a chance to verify his Five Elements Tao. Outside the Five Elements city, Sherpatian looked at the Five Elements city in front of him. He was unwilling to give up because his plan this time was flawless. As long as there were no accidents, killing his second uncle would not be a problem. However, the sect leader of the Five Elements sect had personally come. If he continued, he would not be giving Sima Tu face and provoking the Five Elements sect. If Sima Tu really turned hostile, then wouldn't it lead to a war between the Five Elements sect and the Wanshou sect? Second uncle, don't think that you can sit back and relax just because Sima Tu is here. I will let you know the consequences of provoking me. Young master, what should we do now? Follow the original plan. Hearing the young master's words, the disciple of the Wanshou sect was startled. He said with some fear, Young master, Sima Tu has already come. If we continue to attack, I'm afraid we will make him unhappy. At that time, we will be in big trouble. Sherpatian nodded. Regarding this matter, how could he not know? He said, That old man wants to kill me. If I don't fight back, he will really think that I am afraid of him. This time, not to mention Sima Tu, even if the Heavenly Emperor comes, I will kill him. Since the matter had already reached this point, the disciple of the Wanshou sect did not dare to continue and could only agree. On the city wall of the Five Elements city stood two people. They were the sect leader of the Five Elements sect, Sima Tu, and the vice leader of the Five Elements sect, Su Hai. Seeing that Sherpatian had not left, Sima Tu said in a gloomy voice, If you do this, you will provoke a war between the Five Elements sect and the Wanshou sect. At that time, how will we deal with it? Although Su Hai was the sect leader of the Metal Element sect, his status was not on the same level as Sima Tuesday. He thought for a moment and said, Sect leader, I just want them to fight each other. At that time, our Five Elements sect will be the fisherman who reaps the benefits. Foolish. Sima Tu cursed and continued, The grudges between the two of them are their family matters. If we intervene, do you think the Wanshou sect will agree? Sect leader. Sima Tu waved his hand and said, This matter ends here. Even if both of them die here, it has nothing to do with us. Do you understand? Even if Su Hai was unwilling in his heart, he did not dare to say anything. However, he was very unwilling. Things had already reached this point. If he were to give up, not to mention him, even if it was someone else, would they be willing to do so? Author's note: I have been too busy these past 2 days. I have to find some time to write a few chapters. Tomorrow, Xiaojiu will try to write a few more chapters. Chapter 1107. The Five Elements sect was one of the 10 pillars. The Five Elements peak was a huge peak that reached the sky. There were peaks within peaks. The 5 peaks surrounded the huge peak in the middle. In the southeast of the Five Elements sect, there were 5 giant stone tablets. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. 5 stone tablets. Every year, the Five Elements sect would recruit disciples. No matter who it was, they would have to walk through the Five Elements stone tablet. As long as they could draw out a trace of the Five Elements stone tablet's aura, they would be able to enter the Five Elements sect and become a disciple. The Five Elements stone tablet was open. No matter who it was, they could enter the Five Elements stone tablet and sense it. Under normal circumstances, Longao would not be stopped when he arrived at the Five Elements peak. Outside the Five Elements stone tablet, 2 Five Elements disciples, Stone and Dehai, were guarding in front of the Five Elements stone tablet. Wait, who are you? Black Wolf, I want to enter the Five Elements stone tablet and sense it. Black Wolf? Disdain and contempt appeared on their faces. They sneered and said, Kid, the Five Elements stone tablet is not open to the public for the time being. You should leave. Not open to the public? Looking at the few people who had just entered, Longao already knew what was going on. The two of them obviously looked down on him and did not want him to enter the Five Elements stone tablet. They looked down on people. The sect leader of the Five Elements sect, Sima Tu, asked me to come and sense the Five Elements stone tablet. Hearing the other party's words, the two Five Elements sect disciples laughed crazily. From time to time, they would mock and look down on others. They would even stop some people from entering the Five Elements stone tablet. Many people would find all sorts of reasons to enter the Five Elements stone tablet to sense it, and to enter the Five Elements sect to become a disciple. They were used to it. However, this was the first time they heard of the sect leader. "Kid, is there something wrong with your head? The sect leader asked you to come? Who the F***ck do you think you are? What a joke. Get lost. If you have the ability, you can ask the sect leader to come. I want to see if you know the sect leader." Looking at the two of them in disdain, Longao felt pity for them. If the sect leader of the Five Elements sect, Sima Tu, really came, would they be like this? They would probably be scared shitless. He couldn't be bothered with the two of them. Longao came to the Five Elements sect this time mainly to try to sense the Five Elements stone tablet. If he could enter the Five Elements sect, it might not be a bad thing. Only the Five Elements sect could help him with the Five Elements heaven-devouring art. That was indeed the case. Longao decided that no matter what happened, he had to enter the Five Elements stone steel. He forced his way in. Dehai and Stone were shocked when they saw that the other party wanted to barge in. After all, this was the Five Elements sect. Who would dare to barge in here? Such a thing had never happened before. "Brat, you're courting death!" Boom! Before the two of them could react, Longao's body had already disappeared. Their bodies paused for a second before falling heavily to the ground. Their faces were filled with shock. Putting aside the other party's strength, just the fact that the other party dared to make a move was already a provocation to the Five Elements sect. If news of this were to spread out, where would their reputation go? Where would the Five Elements sect's face go? "Brother Dehai, what should we do now?" "Report to the sect immediately. I want to see how this person will die." The two of them were almost certain that once this matter was reported to the sect, the other party would definitely die. However, there were too many people in the Five Elements stone tablet. After all, there were too many people who wanted to enter the Five Elements sect. Moreover, the Five Elements sect would not casually interfere with the sensing of the Five Elements stone tablet. Therefore, even if the sect wanted to interfere, they would have to wait for the other party to come out. Inside the Five Elements stone tablet, the five Elements stone steels were like the 5 fingers of a palm. Each steel was about 100 meters long, and the distance between each steel was very far. In this way, the Five Elements stone steels could accommodate many people. The Five Elements sect had a clear rule. No matter who it was, even if it was a disciple of the Five Elements sect, they could not enter the Five Elements stone tablet for more than a day. Moreover, if they did not succeed this time, they would have to wait for at least 3 months before they could try again. There were too many people who wanted to enter the Five Elements stone steel. If someone occupied the Five Elements stone steel for 1 year, 3 years, or even 10 years, then the Five Elements sect wouldn't have any new blood to enter, and wouldn't it slowly decline? Metal Element stone tablet, Wood Element stone tablet, Water Element stone tablet, Fire Element stone tablet, Earth Element stone tablet. There were many people standing in front of the Metal Element stone tablet, Wood Element stone tablet, Water Element stone tablet, Earth Element stone tablet. Everyone stood in front of the Five Elements stone tablet and quietly closed their eyes, quietly sensing the power of the Five Elements. No matter who it was, as long as they could trigger the energy fluctuation of any of the Five Elements stone tablet, they could join the Five Elements sect. If someone could trigger 2 or more stone tablets, not only could they become a disciple of the Five Elements sect, they could also become a disciple that the Five Elements sect would focus on nurturing. That was exactly the case. Anyone who entered the Five Elements Stone Tablet wanted to sense the fluctuation of the Five Elements Stone Tablet, hoping to join the Five Elements sect. According to the rules of the Five Elements sect, those who entered the Five Elements Stone Tablet, no matter who it was, no matter what kind of grudge they had, even if it was someone who killed their father, they were not allowed to attack. However, anyone who was discovered, no matter who it was, would be killed immediately. Even if it was the sect master of the Five Elements sect, it was the same. Five Elements Stone Tablet. Those who could sense one of the stone tablets could enter the Five Elements sect and become a disciple of the Five Elements sect. Five Elements Stone Tablet. Those who could sense two of the stone tablets would be heavily nurtured by the Five Elements sect and become a core disciple. Five Elements Stone Tablet. Those who could sense three of the stone tablets would almost become the flesh of the Five Elements sect. There was no need to describe how valuable it was. Five Elements Stone Tablet. Those who could sense four of the stone tablets were 1 in a million. There was almost no one in the Five Elements sect. In the past 100 years, there were only a few people who could sense four of the stone tablets at the same time. There was no need to mention the status of such people in the Five Elements sect. Five Elements Stone Tablet. Other than the old ancestor who founded the Five Elements sect, no one else could sense five of the stone tablets. According to legend, if someone could trigger five of the stone tablets at the same time, the five stone tablets would release light at the same time. The light of the five attributes would be linked together to form the Five Elements light. In the past 10,000 years, no one was able to do it. Since he had already entered the Five Elements Stone Tablet, Longao did not hesitate. He immediately came to the front of the metal tablet and closed his eyes. He began to comprehend quietly, hoping to trigger the metal tablet. The Five Elements Stone Tablet only lasted for a day. In the dense crowd, no one spoke, and no one moved. They just found a spot and began to comprehend. Outside the Five Elements Stone Tablet. Big brother, why didn't we report this to the sect? Gui Mei, the core disciple of the Five Elements sect, was the big brother of the two. His cultivation had already broken through the black-grade Great Sovereign Realm, and his status in the Five Elements sect was not bad. The two of them could not understand why this matter was not reported to the sect. Chapter 1108. He waved his hand. Gui Mei laughed coldly. So what if I report to the sect? When he comes out, I will make him wish he was dead. Hearing their brother's words, Big C and Stone were overjoyed. Gui Mei and the other two did not leave. They guarded the Five Elements Stone Steel, waiting for Black Wolf to appear. As for Sima too, he had long forgotten about Black Wolf. In the eyes of the Five Elements sect master, He Lang was nothing in his eyes. The reason why Sima too wanted Black Wolf to head to the Five Elements sect to sense the Five Elements Stone Steel was because he was shocked by his dark aura. As for his strength and identity, Sima too believed that if it was anyone else, they would choose to ignore him too. Within the Five Elements Stone Steel, Longao's soul power slowly tried to enter the metal steel. South. Before Longao could react, his soul had already entered the metal element steel. Regarding this point, Longao really did not think of it. Five Elements Chaos Stone Steel. The moment Longao's soul entered the metal steel, the Chaos Stone Steel in his dantian reacted. Instantly. Longao already knew what had happened. It turned out that the Five Elemental Stone Tablet in front of the Five Elemental Door was created by someone who had comprehended the Five Elemental Chaos Stone Tablet, and created a fake Five Elemental Chaos Stone Tablet. Furthermore, the fake Five Elemental Chaos Stone Tablet was split into 5 parts and forcefully created the 5 Elemental Stone Tablets of metal, wood, water, fire and earth. Could it be the old ancestor of the Five Elements sect? Thinking about this, Longao was really shocked. He admired the old ancestor of the Five Elements sect. To be able to do this, how many people in this world could do it? Longao was sure that the old ancestor of the Five Elements sect had definitely seen the Five Elements Chaos Stone Steel. Otherwise, the old ancestor of the Five Elements sect would not be able to create a replica of the Five Elements Chaos Stone Steel. Too powerful. Master, there's no need for me to tell you. I believe you should know what's going on. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Sense it well. As long as you can comprehend the 5 sides of the Chaos Stone Steel, it will bring you indescribable benefits in terms of comprehending the true 5 elements Chaos Stone Steel. Nodding. As for what Long Fu said, how could Longao not know? Without any hesitation, he immediately started to comprehend the 5 elements Stone Steel. After entering the metal elemental Stone Steel, as long as one could comprehend it, there was no need to head to the other Stone Steels. No matter what, Longao's Dantian contained the true 5 elemental Chaos Stone Tablet. This was something that Sima too wouldn't believe even if he was beaten to death. Otherwise, Sima too would have directly snatched it away. 5 Elements Peak. Inside the 5 Elements Hall. The entire 5 Elements sect trembled for a moment before returning to normal. The 6 people who were discussing important matters in the 5 Elements Great Hall trembled slightly. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. 5 Elements Light! Following Sima Tu's exclamation, the 6 of them disappeared at the same time and reappeared in front of the 5 Elements Great Hall. They looked at the 5 different colored lights that suddenly appeared in the distance. The gold elemental energy, white elemental energy, green elemental energy, water elemental energy, blue elemental energy, fire elemental energy, red elemental energy, earth elemental energy, and yellow elemental energy. The 5 elemental energy, 5 elements reincarnation, formed the 5 elements light. The 6 of them knew clearly what it meant when the 5 elements light suddenly appeared on the 5 elements Stone Steel. Sect Master, in the history of our 5 elements sect, other than our old ancestor who could comprehend the 5 elements Stone Steel at the same time, there has never been a second person. The 5 elements light that hasn't appeared for 10,000 years has finally appeared. This. They were so excited that they couldn't speak coherently. After all, the 5 elements light hadn't appeared for 10,000 years. This meant that the person who could comprehend the 5 elements Stone Steel at the same time had talent and potential comparable to their old ancestor. Once such a super genius was accepted into the 5 elements sect, he would definitely shine brightly in the future. Moreover, the 5 elements sect would also forcefully rise. This was an opportunity given by the heavens to the 5 elements sect. The 5 elements light that hadn't appeared for 10,000 years. Sima too was so excited that he couldn't speak. The 6 of them looked at each other and disappeared from the 5 Elements Great Hall, heading towards the 5 Elements Stone Steel. Not only the 6 of them, but even the other disciples and elders of the 5 Elements sect were looking at the 5 Elements Stone Steel. Everyone knew what the 5 Elements light represented. It had not appeared for 10,000 years. Some people were envious, some were jealous, some were excited, and some were happy. There were all kinds of people and all kinds of emotions. Chapter 1109. 5 Elements Stone Steel, 9 Heavens Void. 5 different colors of light intertwined, forming the 5 elements light that had not appeared for 10,000 years. The 5 elements light formed the 5 elements cycle. Outside the 5 elemental Stone Steel, 6 figures appeared. They looked at each other. Even now, the 6 of them were still unable to calm down. Sect Master, are we going in? He waved his hand. Sima too finally calmed down after being excited for a long time. No one is allowed to enter the 5 elements Stone Steel. Remember, from now on, seal off the news. Other than the person who drew out the 5 elements light, take everyone else in. Sect Master. Before the other 5 could speak, Sima too continued. Once the others know about this, They will definitely think of various ways to kill this person. Therefore, this matter cannot be leaked. Do you understand? The 5 nodded. The 5 of them were not fools. They knew what was going on. The person who drew out the 5 elements light could be said to be the most important person in the 5 elements sect in the past 10,000 years. Once such a person grew up, he could lead the 5 elements sect to rise. At that time, it would not be difficult for the 5 elements sect to surpass the other 9 super forces. The 5 elements sect immediately sealed off the news. In other words, the 5 elements sect had completely sealed off the news that the 5 elements light had not appeared for 10,000 years. Sima 2 and the other 5 waited quietly in front of the 5 elements stone steel. They were very excited because the 6 of them wanted to see who the person who could draw out the 5 elements light was. The 5 elements light cycled for 6 hours before gradually disappearing into the 9 heavens void. It has finally disappeared. Notify everyone in the 5 elements stone steel to come out. Understood, Sect Master. Longao's soul exited the 5 elements stone steel. From the beginning to the end, no one knew what had happened. This was because what Longao had done was done in the 5 elements stone steel. Everyone, leave the 5 elements stone steel. No matter who you are, you can become a disciple of the 5 elements sect. Ah? Hearing the sudden voice, everyone's face lit up. Without any hesitation, they immediately filed out. Longao, who was at the back, naturally knew what had happened. The fact that he had activated the 5 elemental stone steel and formed the 5 elemental light should have already shocked the entire 5 elemental sect. If it were him, he would definitely have found out about it as well. Longao followed behind everyone and slowly left the 5 elements stone steel. Outside the 5 elements steel, there were more than 1,000 people walking out of the 5 elements stone steel. At a glance, the crowd was densely packed. If they did not take the initiative to admit it, it would be impossible to find the culprit among thousands of people. Looking at the thousands of people, Sima 2 did not feel troubled at all. In his opinion, those who could trigger the 5 elements light would definitely want to enter the 5 elements sect. Otherwise, they would just be trash if they left. The light of the 5 elements was very important to the 5 elements sect, but it was nothing to other places. Who drew out the light of the 5 elements just now? Sima 2 did not hide anything because what happened just now was not only seen by the 6 of them, but also by the other members of the 5 elements sect, including the cleaner. Even if he wanted to hide it, he would not be able to. However, Sima 2 had already thought of a countermeasure. As long as he kept the news a secret, it would not be difficult for others to find out. It was because of this that he decided that anyone who entered the 5 elements stone steel could become a disciple of the 5 elements sect regardless of whether they sensed it or not. Light of the 5 elements? When the people who came out heard sect leader Sima's words, their faces changed. Although they were not disciples of the 5 elements sect, they knew what the light of the 5 elements meant. Everyone looked at each other because they already knew why they were able to enter the 5 elements sect for no reason. In the end, they were all basking in the limelight. Otherwise, it would not be easy to enter the 5 elements sect and become a disciple of the 5 elements sect. No one admitted it? Looking at the thousands of people in front of them, no one stood out. Sima 2 and the others were depressed. If no one admitted it, it would be difficult to find out the truth. Sect leader, what should we do? The 5 vice sect leaders looked serious. Thousands of people stood in front of them, and each of them had a blank expression on their faces. They did not seem to know who it was. If I'm not wrong, even the person himself would not know if he triggered the 5 elements stone steel. The 5 vice sect leaders nodded. It seemed like this was the only explanation. Everyone enter the sect. We will observe slowly and see who exactly triggered all 5 sides of the 5 elements stone steel. Next, the thousands of people were arranged to enter the 5 elements sect. No matter who it was, no one was allowed to leave the 5 elements sect without knowing the truth. From the beginning to the end, Sima 2 did not recognize Longao. Sima 2 did not put Longao in his eyes at all. He had already forgotten everything that happened before. Longao followed everyone into the Five Elements sect and was arranged to be alone. The thousands of people were very excited because it was not important who triggered the Five Elements stone steel. What was important was that they could enter the Five Elements sect and become a disciple of the Five Elements sect. In the eyes of the Five Elements sect's disciples, they looked down on the thousands of people. The reason was simple. The thousands of people did not trigger the Five Elements stone steel to enter the Five Elements sect. They entered the Five Elements sect with the help of a mysterious person. Therefore, these people were destined not to become a core disciple of the Five Elements sect. In the main hall of the Five Elements sect, Sima2 and the other 5 vice sect leaders sat in their seats. Their faces were serious and filled with excitement. Have you found out who it is? In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Even so, the Five Elements sect still could not find out who triggered the Five Elements stone steel among the thousands of people. Therefore, they could not find a solution to the problem. If this continued, what was the point of whether this person existed or not? Sect leader, we still can't find out who it is. Just like what you said, it seems like even the person himself does not know about it. I have checked the thousands of people and even checked 30 times, but there is still no clue. Hearing the Wood Element sect leader's words, everyone's face became more serious. If that was the case, this matter would be very troublesome. From now on, focus on cultivating the thousands of people. I believe that the person who triggered the Five Elements stone steel is very talented. I believe that he will soon stand out from the thousands of people. Pay attention. The 5 of them stood up at the same time and respectfully bowed. Sect leader, we will do it right away. The 5 of them were very clear about the seriousness of this matter. They immediately left the main hall and began to prepare. They hoped to find this person in the shortest time possible. P.S. The 3rd chapter has been delivered. It will explode tonight. At least 5 chapters. At least 8 chapters will be updated today. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.